A very, very good afternoon to all of you, and I'm so very excited to welcome the creme de la creme of the retail and commerce industry. Seeing these brilliant smiles, I have just one urge, which is to make all of you please put your hands together for the wonders that you've done in the market. So let's hear a round of applause for all of you. I'm your host, Isha Palla, delighted to be a part of this much-awaited show right here. Ecom Express presents the big shift powered by ET Now Global Business Summit, a show that really does promise a lot of learning, a lot of entertainment, a lot of networking, but most of all, we are really going to discuss how the markets are changing today, how customer experiences are so very, very important to us, and how change continues to be a constant there, making sure that we bring to you all this and more. But before that, taking you to the graph of what e-commerce industry has been through, the changes that the logistics industry has seen, and how we've made sure that we don't waver there. So let's take a look at this audio visual to know more. A round of applause as we continue to fulfill our promise of delivering beyond. And very soon we're going to have our expert speakers join us here on stage and share with you how we are touching every part of the country. But as we get set for that, I'm about to present to you a speaker who I've always had the pleasure of learning a lot from. He isn't just somebody who's very, very passionate about public service, but he is someone whose work has been very noted when he was a practicing physician, especially in the field of diabetes and more. He's also someone who has authored various books, not just that, but chaired and been a part of so many bodies, creating a change there, been a professor, an educator, and so much more. May I request all of you to please put your hands together as I have the privilege and honor to welcome on stage none other than Dr. Jitendra Singh, Minister of State for Ministry of Science and Technology, Minister of State for Prime Minister's Office Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, Department of Atomic Energy, Department of Space. Welcome, sir, and thank you so very much for your presence. Sir, to present a personality like yourself with a token of our appreciation, and like you always teach us, it is time for us to go green and create a change. So to welcome you, may I please call upon Mr. Ajay Chitkara, CEO and Managing Director, Ecom Express, and Ms. Jyotsna Raheja, Chief Manager, Content, ET Edge. A round of applause for both our presenters as we now request the two of you to present, sir, with a beautiful sapling as we look forward to a green tomorrow. Requesting my kind audience to please put their hands together as we capture the frame. Thank you, Mr. Chitkara. Thank you, Ms. Raheja, for joining us. Such a pleasure. Sir, I know my audience is more than waiting to hear from you, to learn from you, to share what the journey and what, according to you, is the big change. So may I request you to please share a few words with us.
At the outset, thank you Ecom Express and ET Now for having me over here. And I look forward to by learning a lot from this brief interaction. I'm sure when I go back from here, I shall go back wiser than before. But having said that, when I'm asked to speak about the journey or maybe the transformation that has happened over the last 1 decade, or to be precise, about 10 years, which has been incidentally the tenure of Prime Minister Modi, I think the best way to appreciate a phenomena or whatever, particularly a changing phenomena, is to compare it with what it was earlier and what is it now. So if you look back to what it was like before 2014, you will recall there was so much of cynicism among the common Indian citizen. There's so much of disillusionment. Our youth felt that there was no future for them. They always look forward to be leaving the country at the first available opportunity. There was a sense of pessimism so much, and in fact, that evening on the 26th of May 2014, when the oath ceremony happened of the new Prime Minister Modi took over. It was around 6:30 in the evening, and it was the twilight time. And suddenly, when the shadows of evening were enlarging, you suddenly had so much of light around as if it was sunrise at sunset, because so many of television setups suddenly, started putting up that. And I think the most widely watched oath ceremony of any head of the state anywhere in the government in our recent memory. And I had actually written a small blog that this is the beginning of a journey from pessimism to optimism. Because suddenly there was a surge of hope that, okay, now maybe we are going to get over that shame and that loss of esteem which had happened because of the scam after scam appearing. And India got to be known as a country which could do better in scams than anything else. And therefore we thought suddenly it appeared there was an opportunity to get over that dubious reputation. And therefore if you compare it with that, I think if you go through all the earlier statements of Prime Minister Modi, you would have every reason to believe that we have actually, under Prime Minister Modi, walked the talk, because we live an evidence-based era, and therefore you can't be simply making a political rhetoric, but there is evidence enough to. And evidence based not on the parameters determined by me or by you or subjectively developed by India, if you even go by the global parameters. Now, she was talking in the context of economy. We were known to be fragile 5 and number 10. Today we are top 5. So I think some kind of a scientific analysis has to go into the background of this. How has it happened? It could have happened simply on the basis of rhetoric. And if you go by the global parameters, before we actually try to analyze how this transformation has happened and what has gone into this, let's have the evidence of it that we have from the objective observers, not emanating from this soil. For example, in Global Innovation Index, we were number 81. We ranked 81 in 2014. Today, we have jumped 41 places. We are ranked 40. So this is not I say, you say, this is one of the most respected parameters. So that means innovation has actually contributed hugely into this transformation which has happened over the last nearly 10 years. If you go by the startup index, we were just about 350 startups, or maximum 400 in 2014. Today we are close to 1.5 lakh, more than 100 unicorns. And in the global parameter, we are, and my next sentence would attract a bigger clap, because at the global index, we are ranked number 3. Now you just imagine in his first Independence Day address, or the second Independence Day address from the ramparts of Red Fort, when Prime Minister gave a call, stand up India, stand up India. Start up India, stand up India. I came across a number of people who were actually trying to understand what it was. He said, does it mean? So beginning from where we were, because we had not actually ventured into global betterment. And when we talk of making ourselves make our presence in global excellence, we have to go by the global parameters. We have to live up to the global challenges. We have to follow the global strategies And that's what has happened in the last 10 years. In space, we were, sometimes it's embarrassing to say, we were just one-digit startup. And this transformation happened because we were unnecessarily confining ourselves behind self-made shackles. And all this has contributed to economy, which I'll try to explain to you in the next 1 or 2 minutes, because otherwise I can go on and on, but I try to limit myself to 5-7 minutes. We had shut the doors of Sriharikota. We were working behind a veil of secrecy, I don't know for what, when the whole world watches us through Google. And therefore, we were constraining our resources, constraining our funds. We couldn't move on from where we were. After the new space reforms that came in, when it was put across to the Honorable Prime Minister, because the first time I went to Sriharikota and had the opportunity of watching a launch about 10, 11 years back, Dr. Radhakrishnan happened to be chairperson of ISRO and who also happened to be a friend. So in the middle of the night, he took me there and he said, Doc, I'll take you a spot where even my scientists are prohibited because it's such a risky zone. Tomorrow morning, we are going to have a launch. So I told him, I said, Radha, I have tried to make a principle for myself to learn one new thing every day. What I learned today is that to reach here, either one should be as eminent a scientist as you are, or a jagadu like me to enter here. But then what is the fun of it? So when it was put across to the Prime Minister, he let it open to the private sector. And within just 8 months, even the current year, from the 1st of April to the 31st of December 2023, we have had an investment of more than 1,000 crore. And what is, and that, so that means there was a huge amount of potential, huge amount of capacity, huge amount of commitment, which was waiting to happen. But what was lacking was a possibly an enabling milieu, which is to be provided by the policy planners, by the political leadership. We didn't have a dearth of talent among our youth. We didn't have a dearth of talent among our innovators, among our potential startups, even our technologists and scientists. But we were not giving them an enabling milieu, in search of which then they finally decided to go abroad. And therefore, we also lost out to them. And when this happened, see the wonders. I was telling the other day, I said very seldom we realize that ISRO, I'm just citing an example, was born in the year 1969. That was the year it was established. And if you go back to the newspapers, archives, 1969 is the year which is known for the year when the Americans landed the first human being on the surface of the moon, called Neil Armstrong. And we were just newborn and singing rhymes, Chanda Mama Dur Ke. And today, we have managed to reach the south pole of the moon even before the Americans. So it's been such a, so if such a quantum leap is possible, I think, and I sometimes very seriously think so and also share with others, that it could be an important part of a case study, how this could happen. And why India today is being hailed across the world is because we have succeeded in proving ourselves on the basis of the parameters laid down by them. We can excel in their domains. For example, climate, green energy, zero emissions. India was never taken seriously because they thought these things were not meant for us, they were beyond us. Today we are laying down the targets. Net zero by 2070. It's our Prime Minister goes and lays down. In G20, it is we who are saying, let's come and form a global bio alliance, because we are telling the world, look here, the future is going to belong to bioeconomy. And India, for that matter, has an exclusive domain of bioeconomy. We have such a huge range of Himalayas, about 5-7 states lying in this lap of Himalayas. We never look back. So this rise in economy has happened, and if you talk of bioeconomy also, because these days, I mean, unless you talk in the terms of figures, you're not taken seriously, you're taken more as a political speaker. Our bioeconomy just stood at 10 billion US dollars in 2040. Today it is nearly 140 billion. In biotech startups, we had just about 50 startups, only 50 in 2014. Today we have more than 6,000. We have a huge lot of aroma mission called the Purple Revolution, which has shown the world the wonders of entrepreneurship through lavender cultivation. Agri startup. Agri was our domain, which we never looked into it. Again born from Himalayas. So why this change has happened? A, because we have started exploring those areas which were lying there, which are an asset, but we never explored. The other one, of course, one, for example, being Himalayas, the other one being the coastal range. We have 7,500 long kilometer coast, possibly longest for any country in the world. I was telling the other day, some of the friends from Australia, I said, you live in a place which is called an island, a continent and a country, but the ocean is not known as Australian Ocean. But my ocean is known as Indian Ocean. But there must be an economic reason for that, because my forefathers could see the huge amount of wealth lying inside. So for the first time, and that too, I think there's not been a single Independence Day address where Prime Minister has not flagged off one or the other important scientific mission. It was deep sea mission which he announced, not once but twice in his Independence Day address in 2023, 2024. And now we have embarked on that. The huge amount of minerals, metals, biodiversity, fishery lying in the bed of the sea. It's such a huge lot of seabed weight we have. We never actually explored into that. So A, we have started exploring into these hitherto unexplored or lesser explored areas. B, we have liberated ourselves from self-imposed shackles, as happened in the case of space I mentioned. And you'll be glad to know, I was telling somebody, I said, most of the governments and most of the politicians and even the civil servants after their retirement, they take pride in narrating stories. Mere time mein ye naya kanun laya, mere mein ye laya. We'll take pride in saying that we did away with 2,000 rules which had gone obsolete with the passage of time. And these precisely, we did not bring in regulations, we rather deregulated what was already existing. Because that is what was causing the delays. What was also disincentivizing the investors from outside to coming to this place, in spite of our huge research. So that was the second. Third, of course, we had, fortunately enough, the head of the state, or the Prime Minister, who has the unusual capacity to break the taboos of the past, which usually the political leaders avoid, because it's comfortable living in status quo and letting things sail through election after election. But here we had a Prime Minister, he said, what is required, what is in the interest of the people of this country, we'll do. Wherever we are required, we'll reach. What has been left undone, we'll do, and then leave it to the people to decide and to their discretion. So we had that kind of liberty. That's why I say this is possibly one of the best times happening in India for the innovators, for the youngsters, for also the startups. And all this together has created an ecosystem. The rise in economy, I think, because I'm just giving you a kind of a small abstract of a larger research paper which could happen. You have abolished the regulations which were hindering you. You have started exploring which you had not explored. And you have also moved on to see what are the global parameters, trying to live up to them. Gone are the days when India was waiting for others to give us a lead. Today others are waiting for us to give them a lead. And that is what has given our youth a sense of esteem. It's not an ordinary thing that during the G20, it is or even before that, when the Prime Minister Modi visited DC, Washington DC, it was the American president who offered that we want to have Indian astronauts accompanying our team to the International Space Station, which means they realize the kind of value addition which our countrymen could do. Today, if we are at the south pole of the moon, it is they who are waiting for us to send them the inputs. So it's just the other way around. So we have proved ourselves on the international parameters, the international scale. Okay, we are no longer only confined to our domains, which of course we have also started exploring, which were not, but we can also excel in the domains which you thought were yours. And this has also thirdly been possible because we have very consciously, under Prime Minister Modi, done away with the cynicism of the past, the misgivings of the past. There's a huge amount of integration between the public and the private sector. I don't know what was the sessions earlier, but I was being briefed. And I think that's been possible because there was so much of skepticism between the two. The public sector thought that the private sector, all thieves. The private sector thought, the public sector, all bribe takers. But I was telling the other day, I said if we have to move in the same bus, The bribe takers also have to sit in the same bus, the thieves also. You can't do away to reach the destination. If the destination is common, we have to learn to integrate. And the larger the integration, the extended the integration. So I think time has come to do away with the demarcation between the private and the public. And the age of silos is over. That is the lesson which we have started learning, which we made others also realize. I mean, the success story of space is one of the most brilliant, brightest evidences of same. The first startup, private startup, who was the first one, Skyroot, the first one to launch a private rocket, within 2 years have turned into entrepreneurs. They started manufacturing. First Indian rocket unit has been set up by them in Hyderabad. So much of potential happens when you integrate it. And it is this year. And as I said, this is also why, if we are being hailed, if we are looked up by the rest of the world, which otherwise thought they were developed, we were underdeveloping, it's not that they are impressed by me, by you. It's because they realize the prowess, the kind of new potential that has suddenly become unrobed or unveiled by India. And that's also because we are now moving in the same pace, or maybe in certain areas higher. And as I said, I've been taught as a student of science not to talk without evidence. If you just take one example of television. Television happened in the USA in the 1950s. The famous election of 1960 in which John Kennedy defeated Richard Nixon. The turning point, the deciding factor was a TV debate between the two candidates. And here in India, that time, we didn't know what is TV, what is debate. In India, it started happening only in somewhere around 1970. So we were 1 decade, 1.5 decade behind them. Same is the case with computers. But today, take the example of quantum technology. We are among the 5 or 6 nations in the world who are actually experimenting in quantum technology. The application has not happened anywhere, but we are at equal pace in the R&D. And that's why our startups today are not only gaining esteem within India, but even outside. The other day we were in Berlin, I was told, because I like to meet the youngsters wherever I go, because that's how you learn from them. I asked them, why do you prefer boys and girls from India for your startup group? So they cited a number of reasons, the last one being that they don't take a weekend off, as our boys and girls do. So our boys and girls disappear on Friday morning, afternoon, and reappear only on Monday morning. But we have learned to slog. So that's an added trait with which we were born. We want to struggle and slog, in addition to everything else. And then, as I said, the whole ecosystem, because I won't, otherwise I can go on and on. The whole ecosystem also involves the new education policy, which has supplemented, each of these transformatory changes have supplemented each other. It has supplemented our innovators, our startup endeavors. The national education policy, which allows you to exit and enter again. So the other day, because I visit almost 1 or 2 universities every week, so the other day some of the students asked me, what is the difference in a single sentence with the earlier one? I said, the earlier one made you, or made us, the generation which went through this, the prisoners of our aspiration. Whereas the new one gives you aspirations in abundance and leaves you with the dilemma of choosing the outlet. And to put it in simple words, I'll tell you, suppose your parents wanted you to become a doctor, and in class you take those bio subjects, then you don't make it. And what happens? You are stuck with that. Your subjects chase you. You have stopped chasing the career of a medico, of a doctor, but the subject doesn't leave you. And then you go on to do a BSc in the same subjects. Then try to your luck in civil service. If you make it good, if you don't, then you go in for a post-graduation, MSc, in the same subjects, either botany or zoology. If you are able to make it, then you look for some good job, some maybe UGC teacher or professor or whatever. If you don't, then you go in for a PhD. And you end up as an unemployed PhD. But here I have the opportunity. After class 12, if I'm not able to move in the direction that I had planned for myself, for my parents, I can juggle these subjects. I can combine biology with economics. I can combine economics with physics. And this is the kind of pattern which is being followed in many of the other developed universities, and that's how they have moved on. So we have now started following that. And that also, because that gives me an opportunity to realize my aptitudes, because maybe in class 12 I didn't realize what I was meant for. My parents did that for me. But when I realized, I go. Like most of us, when you go to Bollywood, you go in the search of becoming an actor because you think you're very good looking. but some of us end up becoming script writers, some of also clapper boys. So what you actually know the best also comes through realization in the course of time, and what you don't also comes through. This education policy gives, and that has created an ecosystem. And that's why I said, you are no longer the prisoner of the aspiration. This is one of the best times happening for the youth of this country. And sometimes I feel I missed out this age, because this is one of the, and when you move on in the next 20 years to see the festival of Century India in 2047, it is these youth who are going to be hailed across the world. So I think I'm getting into too much of a monologue. I would rather have preferred if there was something coming from the other side, and I would have rather responded accordingly. But I personally feel that if we are able to channelize ourselves and make the best use of the milieu available, it will be to our advantage. If we are not, and I think what is equally important is the creation of awareness, not only among youth, but also among their elders, among their parents. We had an expo recently, Startup Expo here in Pragati Maidan. I said, next time when you have this, make it mandatory. When you have a conducted visit by a school or a college, every student should be accompanied with at least one parent. Because what you counsel is uncounseled by the parent. When the child goes, वो कहता है उसने तो अपना बना लिया, तुम्हारा वक्त बर्बाद कर रहा. So, because they have their deconditioning is to be done. You have to make them unlearn to learn what is happening now. Because India is, and the pace has gone up very fast. Not only we are changing, we are transforming, but the pace of transformation is what you envisage or visualize for next morning would have happened in the middle of night. Like when that Chandrayaan was moving, and my first sensitive moment was when I was waiting for that to move out of the Earth orbit and get into the lunar orbit, because that's the most critical moment, because it was moving through the force of gravity. So if you lose it out, then it falls. It's just like you change the track in a national highway, and if you miss the track, you crash with the other car. So I was waiting till about 12 o'clock, a little before 12, and I thought it would happen in the morning. So I went out to sleep and realized in the morning that it actually happened in the midnight. So such is, so it's important equally also to keep the pace with us. And secondly, before I conclude, I think what I envy the most is when I find many of our youth not making the best use of this tool available. All the preparatory material, the information is available in this. Gone are the days, if I had to write a thesis, my guide would say, go to British Council Library and you find a book. I would go to British Council Library, they would say, yes, we have the book, we have sent it to the consulate in Calcutta. So where do I go? Here you have everything. I came across a girl, class 12, who had just now cracked her IIT, because that's what I like doing the best, trying to interview these children. So she had come from a terror-struck area of a district called Sopur in Kashmir. I said, you live in a place where there's no coaching, you can't move out with cross-firing happening. How did you make it? She takes out this from her pocket with confidence, tells me, sir, 18 hours, 8 months, IIT crack. I said, I wish somebody had told me when I was your age. So that's why I'm saying it sometimes hurts if we are not able to. I told, in fact, I'm quite free with my youngsters and my Yuva Morcha. I told one of the boys, I was so, worked up. I said, I see you changing your, what is that called, profile?
Yeah,
profile picture so many times. And I wonder whether it is seen even for the one whom you change for. So please learn to make the, so we are able to learn, because we are two sets of people in this society. One is who don't know. The other is who don't know that they don't know. So I think that is, second is the worst plight. If you are able to make them to know where they can actually look for, I think this is one of the best times happening for India. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please do continue with your presence here on stage. Sir, you took us through the beautiful transformation of India, or shall we say the big shift that India has been through. And to thank you here for your presence and time, may I please extend a very warm welcome and request Mr. Amish Tripathi, author and former diplomat, to please join us on stage. I'd also like to extend a very warm welcome to the very graceful Ms. Manju Dhawan, co-founder, Ecom Express. A round of applause as I welcome Mr. K. Satyanarayana, co-founder, Ecom Express, to please join us here on stage and acknowledge acknowledge sir and thank him for his presence. Sir, we have a very special memento for you, and who better than the author himself? I'd like to request all of you to please present Mr. Amish Tripaঠি's book, Idols, Unearthing the Power of Murti Puja, right here. So it's a personally signed copy, and we truly hope that you enjoy reading it. Thank you so very much for your presence. We do appreciate it. And like you mentioned, if we talk globally today, we are on number 3 when it comes to startups. We are really moving forward, whether it is any industry that we're talking about. Today, everyone wants to do business with India and in India. And that's what brings us right here. What is it, or how is it that you can make sure that you improve your customer's experience? And that is with timely delivery that can happen anywhere, right here. Telling us a lot more about this and how we are making sure that we bring to you the best of services. I'd like for all of you to please put your hands together as I now welcome Mr. Ajay Chitkara, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director, Ecom Express, joining us on stage to welcome all of you and also to share with you how the paradigm shift in the logistics industry has been so far. All yours.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Good evening, everyone. We are honored with your presence. Thank you very much for coming and joining us today evening. Today, we are going to talk about the shifts. In my view, the shift happens. Whichever way you look at, shifts actually happen. There is so much happening around us. In this time, the way we navigate is what decides who is the winner and who is the loser. And that's exactly what's happening in the surrounding. In next 20 to 25 minutes, I'm going to talk about the shifts which we all are seeing around us, the shift we as an organization is making in our business, and shift which we all need to make as an industry. And that's the time which I'm going to spend in next 20 to 30 minutes time. Let me first start with the shift which I saw. I started my life with the telecom industry almost around 20 years back. That point in time, water was free. And the call was 20 rupees. I spent 20 years there. After 20 years, the call is free and water is 20 rupees. And that's the shift which at least I saw in that particular industry. The whole industry became 2.5-layer industry, but during this time when the product which was made and the product which disappeared, the whole industry became $45 billion. So actually shift happens, which we all saw in our life. We are also going, I think we just heard our chief guest, we discussed about India. This is the best time for our country. We are in the center of the world. The center of gravity is changing. We are seeing the big shifts which is happening in the country. Our economy is growing by 7%. E-commerce industry is growing by 11%. Almost anything you talk and touch, that piece is growing for us. Not only this, if you see, and I think there was a lot of discussion about Make in India, but now Make in India is a reality. We have seen Chandrayaan. I think Chandrayaan discussion happened. Chandrayaan was made by, not from people from Harvard or from MIT or even from IIT. It was made by people who, the bunch of engineers who were from good and bright places, but they made that impact. So actually shift is happening in every part of the world. And not only this shift is happening in every part of the world, the cost of Chandrayaan was $75 million, which was lower than Barbie movie. You can imagine the cost of a Chandrayaan was lower than Boeing plane. So not only we are shifting, we are making sure we are the attractive economy and we are doing and making the impact for people. Another piece is around infrastructure. The infrastructure which is being built in country is also making a big impact on this industry. Gati Shakti, ONDC, and many more projects which are coming, they are going to change the way this whole industry operates. This is another shift which we all are seeing, and I think most of you belongs to this industry. E-commerce is also changing. In India, there are around 800 million users. Last year, there were 114 billion transactions happen for e-commerce. Almost around 114 transactions per person per year happened in this country, which means half a transaction per person every day. This market is growing exponentially. By 2030, this market is expected to be around $200 billion. That's a shift which we are seeing big time. But that's not the real shift. The real shift which we are seeing in logistic industry from where we come from. Earlier, e-commerce used to happen in bigger towns. Now, 60% of e-commerce is happening in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. We operate on 27,000 PIN codes. We see 100% of these PIN codes are doing e-commerce. That's the real shift which is happening in this particular country. The next shift which we noticed, earlier there only used to be the bigger horizontal platform. Now the change is happening. D2C is growing. Vertical platforms are going to be the future and tomorrow. People expect, and I'm sure all the expectations which we put up, we always cross. By 2030, this market of D2C is going to be around $100 billion, and that's the shift which we all are expecting. This is another big thing. UPI. The way we operate in this country changed dramatically. In India, in 1 month, we did 11 billion transactions, which is equivalent to 3 months of transaction which happens in US. That's the space. Around 70% of transactions in India are happening digitally. In next 2 to 3 years, these transactions will go to 90%. That's another big shift which we all saw. But that shift impacts our business of e-commerce also. But what we have seen in e-commerce is not happening what we saw in rest of the country. In e-commerce, even today, 80% money is being collected on cash. This ecosystem, all of us need to make sure we work to shift that piece of the business also. That is going to accelerate the way we operate. When we all have grown, we have been told jobs are not there. But now that's not the case. In India alone, 100 to 150 million skilled manpower are needed, which is equivalent to Russia's population. And we don't have that much people. This is a reality of our industry. We need a lot of people, specifically in our business, we need people who can go and deliver for us. That is going to be the scarcity for tomorrow. What we have done as an organization for this, while everyone was going for gig workers, we realized we need to make sure we control the experience. We have 100,000 people. Out of that 100,000 people, 50,000 people are on roll. They are like me. They are heart and soul of this company, and that's what we have built. We have made sure at least we control the experience of our customers and get the people who can grow with us, who can deliver what we want, who can deliver wherein the cost or price will not be paid by other companies, but we make sure they are available for us 24/7 and go and deliver for us. Now I'll just share with you the shift which we made as a company in last few years' time. Logistics used to be hardcore, people-oriented, lot of people floating, fragmented market, no technology. We shifted this logistic market to a tech logistic. And that's the way this market operates today. The technology which we are bringing in this space in last few years has changed the way this whole market operates. I'll just give you some of the problems which we are trying to solve as a company. Today, every day, we deliver 20 lakh packets. In a month, it varies from 4 to 5 crore packets in a month. We pick up these packets from 3 lakh different points. If you pick up from 3 lakh different points and deliver to 5 crores, it's not possible. We have built our own technology platform on which everything rides. It is basis AI/ML. We make sure this platform deliver the speed, the best SLA, and the lowest cost. And that's what the technology has done for us. Not only this, today we can track everything. A packet to a person, to a bag, to a truck, anything and everything. We build that platform for us. Not only that, going forward, maybe we are one of the few companies in the country which has a data of 2 billion deliveries which we have done in last few years' time. We have knocked almost every door in this country wherein the delivery has to happen. We have put that into AI platform so that we can correct the address. There are a lot of such technology intervention which has been done by us, which is impacting this industry. This is very close to me. This is personally close to my heart. Look, it's not 25,000 customers, it's not 100,000 sellers, it's not 300,000 points from where we go and pick up the boxes for them. We as an organization live to give these services. We are not a logistic company. We are a customer-obsessed company which also do logistics. That's the way we wanted to drive this business. Today, our customers who pay us $75, they pay us because we fulfill their commitment for their customers. That's a job which we do. And that's the reason every time we say, har parcel mein jaan basti hai. And we all, in the company, make sure we take this with that. We have divided the whole company into 2 parts. In our company, there are only 2 types of people. One who support the customers and others who support the people who support the customers. There is no other role. And that's the way we wanted to drive this business. This is another big shift which we made. Look, we all want to do everything. That's the interest which we all have in our business. But doing everything is not possible. We've taken a call that we are not going to be a horizontal platform. We will be vertical platform. We will make sure we go and meet with every type of a customer. FMCG customer is different than fashion. Fashion is different than electronics. We are building our products which suits a specific vertical so that we can solve the real problems. It's not just a delivery. It's a delivery for a vertical for which we are building the products today. We have launched many products. Express is our business which is carrying the parcel. I think most of us know the biggest issue of e-commerce industry. At least what I have seen in my own home. My wife needs 1 shirt, she'll order 4. I now go and tell her, please hold it. I am the one who needs to take it back. This industry, buy 1 piece and return 3. RVP is another product which we have built, and we are making sure we do the quality check on the door. Heavies is a third piece which we are working on it. And the fourth one is same-day delivery. We have launched same-day delivery for 30 cities. Amit will further talk about it. दुनिया बदल गई है. मेरा बच्चा मैगी बनाता है, प्याज नहीं होता है, उसको ढूंढ रहा होता है ऐप पे. We are working, we are doing, we are sitting in a generation. If we are not delivering the products with speed, industry will collapse. We are making sure as a business unit, we deliver products on same day. Anywhere in the country, we are also making the investment. We go back and create the micro warehouse so that the products can be stored closer to the customers and that delivery can happen. This is the way we are going and addressing this whole industry for us. We also have a warehousing business. We are not in a warehousing business of selling real estate or giving people. We are in a technology-based warehousing business. OMS, order management system, and inventory management system, both have been built by us. We make sure at least we can manage every sales channel and we manage the inventory at a seller side as well as at the warehouse side. We have currently around 65 locations, more than 5 million square feet of warehouse space, and that's the way we are building and growing. This piece which I just added, we are also having 3,500 different locations from where we distribute the goods. We are making sure those 3,500 locations are capable to store. We are converting them into micro warehousing so that the speed can increase in this country. It can't happen. Someone asked me a few days back, because I recently joined this company, वो दीवार का डायलॉग सुना है? गाड़ी है, बंगला है, पैसा है, तेरे पास क्या है? मुझसे भी किसी ने पूछा. Is it infrastructure? Is it technology? Or is it big investor? Don't mind it, my investors are sitting here. I said no. Team. This company has been built with the right mindset of people who run this. They live 24/7 to make sure we serve our customer. Every person, the last person on ground feels कि मेरे बाप की कंपनी है. मैं अपने कस्टमर के लिए कुछ भी कर सकता हूँ. They own it. They don't work here. That's a culture which has been built in this company, which ensures that the commitment which we give to our customer is being fulfilled every single day. The results. I'm not supposed to share results. You guys can start looking other side, ignore it, but I need to still share. All what we did, it resulted into almost around 1 lakh sellers. We deliver around 2 billion packets in last 8 to 10 years time, and these packets which we deliver almost every part of the country. And we have also generated around 3,000 crore of revenue in this business. I think I'll just share with you the shift which we need to make as an industry, because what we are doing is not enough. We all, as an industry, as a partner, need to do few things together. The first thing which I feel we need to do it together, look, we can give you a product. Each one of you can treat us as a vendor who can come and deliver the products and send a packet as you want and wherever you want. But the amount of data which we have built and created, every return is a cost. Every loss is a cost. Every wrong address is a cost. We have that intelligence already built in. We live for it. If you are doing any business, we can collaborate together. We can make sure we solve these costs which are creating the impact in this industry. E-commerce industry and the logistic industry wherein we operate, they are almost same. It's a proxy of e-commerce industry. It will grow together with e-commerce industry, but we as an industry need to solve some of these issues which has been highlighted. Second issue which we need to highlight and solve. Look, we all used to live in an era wherein there was a test match. It came to one day, now it is 2020. Make sure we are building this solution together and making this shift together. And I think these are two pieces which I wanted to leave it with you. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time. Let's enjoy this ride.
100 cities of India does mean a lot. So once again, let's hear a round of applause to the team who are expanding like within seconds and as we speak. So a round of applause for them once again, please. And now is when we'd like to open in our keynote conversation, talk about India's growth story, especially when it comes to efficiency in logistics. So what really is the big shift when it comes to logistic efficiency? Something that all of you, I'm sure, want to learn a lot about. Right after this session, we'll open it up for all of you in case you have any questions, in case you'd like to share your thoughts with us. But I would also like to take this moment to encourage all of you to please head to your social media accounts, share with the world what we're discussing right here. Please do remember to tag us and do use our hashtag, #TheBigShift. And let me now extend a very warm welcome to our speakers. We are being joined by Mr. Amish Tripathi, author and former diplomat. Let's hear a round of applause for him as he joins us on stage. May I also present to you Mr. Subita Davra, IAS Special Secretary, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Let's hear a round of applause. Moderating this very, very interesting session will be Mr. Ashish Sikka, Chief Strategy Officer, Ecom Express. A round of applause for all of them, and may I request you all to please take a seat as per the images so that it's easier for my audience members to connect each time you're speaking and sharing your thoughts here with us. Welcome, ma'am. Mr. Sikka, all yours.
Thank you, the team, to sort of come here and listen to intriguing conversations around navigating change. And this panel is supposed to take us through an interesting conversation around inside-out view of where India is sort of building through and experiencing the change from infrastructure and logistics standpoint, as well as Amish, who would sort of take us through some of the changes that are being viewed in India from the global diaspora and share insights around that. So I welcome both Ms. Subita Davra and Mr. Amish Tripathi to the panel. So let me start with Ms. Davra, you first. The government has been pushing a lot of initiatives around infrastructure development and logistics services, particularly over the last 10 years or so. What do you think is the current fiscal priority, and this also being an year where a lot of impetus on FIIs and investments into the country at the back of stronger infrastructure supply chain is coming? What do you think is the government priority for this year, particularly for logistics?
All right. Thank you very much for having me here. And all of you who watched the interim budget few days back would recall a few keywords. The capex push to infrastructure, which is an 11% increase over the previous year. And the previous year was actually a 37% increase over the previous year. So there is the capex push. You would recall the railway corridors, the 3 railway corridors, energy corridor, high density corridor, and rail Sagar corridor. You would recall keywords like port connectivity. You would recall new airports. And you would also recall a number of interventions which pertain to planning on PM Gati Shakti. There was also the reference to the regional corridor, the India-Middle East, Europe corridor. So in short, there's a lot of capital expenditure which is going towards an infrastructure growth, infrastructure push in the country, which is going to drive us towards Vision 2047, when the Honorable Prime Minister would like to see India as a developed nation infrastructure being a critical growth driver. And if you recall, in the last budget, there was a lot of emphasis on infrastructure and investments and last mile connectivity issues, where 100 critical last mile connectivity gaps had been, there was an allocation of 75,000 crore rupees with private sector investment as well. All of those have been sanctioned and they are under implementation. In short, big infra push and huge investments all aimed towards logistics efficiency and a more efficient logistics ecosystem.
Thank you. That's interesting. 75,000 crores on infra push, I think, is a strong capex deployment, particularly on the last mile piece. I think it's a good, strong push from the government. Amish, if I can circle back from the global perspective to this investment, this kind of investment that is going onto the infrastructure and parts of unbundled infrastructure like last mile, first mile, and let's say the road corridors and industrial corridors. How are you as a global citizen viewing this? And I know you have exposure and experience in international trade and finance as well, and you've been sort of an avid follower of logistics in general. How do you see that from the global diaspora perspective?
Yeah, I'm an author, but I was also a former diplomat, and I was a banker. And among the industries I covered was logistics. Look, the global logistics industry is actually almost a divine creation. What you see today in the last few decades, the complexity of the supply chains, the range of products that are delivered, at the cost of supply that's delivered, this is historically unprecedented. Normally, logistics cost used to be such a heavy component of product cost. What has happened in the last few decades is really for human beings transformational. But among the things that one saw as when I lived as a diplomat in the UK in the last 4.5 years, and London is a truly international city. It is the heart, among the hearts of international finance, so a lot of logistics people out there, geopolitical experts. The logistics industry is very efficient, but many of the underlying geopolitical assumptions that built this are kind of coming into question now. Sea trade used to be very easy and free, which is why you could have an Apple phone with components from, many dozens of countries and assembled in China and then sold all over the world. Now what's happening is many of the supply chains are splintering. You will have various different, perhaps, industrial groups forming. Many of the trade bottlenecks, I don't know how many of you have been tracking what the Houthis have done on the Red Sea. I'm sure logistics people have been tracking this. And among the things I heard from my geopolitical friends, the troubling fact isn't that some 10,000-15,000 yahoos were able to in effect blockade a huge amount of ships through the Red Sea. The fact that the technology is available to what was essentially a terrorist group, it's not even a country, right? Which means weapons technology, drones has become so cheap. Now this is something that's going to impact logistics dramatically, right? Global logistics. And to that point, I think India has an even bigger role to play. So first of all, if Western companies are going to friendshore from the big communist nation to our north, India can be a big beneficiary of it. But if India can provide security to some of these international trade bottlenecks, among which is the Red Sea, I'm sure you're aware of the problems on the Panama Canal as well. But the Indian Ocean bottlenecks, if India provides security, we will benefit tremendously from it. We will help the world as well. And that, to me, is a huge opportunity that India has. It's not just a logistics opportunity, it's a geopolitical opportunity.
Very interesting view. So drones are picking up, or started to pick up in India as well. So Ms. Davra, if I could sort of come back to you, and you mentioned Project Gati Shakti, and that has been at least the talk among this group as well, being the part of logistics ecosystem and the e-commerce deliveries ecosystem. Being part of project Gati Shakti, what are the things that you are seeing, and otherwise also, what are the things that you are seeing where there are bottlenecks which are still to be resolved with respect to Indian logistics?
I'm sure the audience is familiar with the word PM Gati Shakti, which is a transformative approach to planning multimodal infrastructure, multimodal connectivity in the country, so that the manufacturing centers are more seamlessly connected to EXIM gateways, and building infrastructure in order to facilitate seamless movement of both freight and passengers, which has implications for labor mobility, also for tourism, and so on. You would recall that in the interim budget, an outlay of about 11 trillion rupees is for infrastructure. Planning this infrastructure in a manner that there is no duplication, there is minimal disruption to the ecology, minimum disruption to the existing infrastructure, doing it in the best possible manner so that we get value for money. It is important that the PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan is used by all infrastructure ministries for planning this infrastructure. And that is where there has been a lot of progress. We see all infrastructure ministries today with projects above 500 crore rupees, big ticket infrastructure, being planned on Gati Shakti because it is a data-driven, objective way of decision-making, of planning. We've planned more than 131 projects in the last 2 years on Gati Shakti with a value of about 13 trillion rupees. It's 12.45 trillion rupees. So I think that's a big success, a big achievement. It showcases how infrastructure is being planned more scientifically in order to achieve the demands of a 5 trillion economy, a 7 trillion economy, and ultimately by 2047, almost $33 trillion economy. So that's one thing. I wouldn't talk about roadblocks, but I would certainly talk about challenges. As I said, this is a huge amount of outlay, and to be able to plan and execute in a timely manner, a lot of reforms have taken place, and we will see over the next few years more and more results of this very progressive approach to infra planning and also to supporting logistics efficiency.
Got it. So this is really helpful. One thing that Ms. Davra shied away from speaking is that this is one of the only projects in the country where 18 ministries came together to work for it, right? So that's a massive, massive effort.
It's 43 now.
43, wow.
So
43 ministries.
Very happy
coming
to
together.
say.
Make this happen.
Yes, 43 ministries and 36 states and UTs. It's a whole of government approach where we have more than 1,400 data layers of all the assets in the country, infrastructure assets, social assets, economic assets, and natural resources, all are mapped on the National Master Plan. Thank you.
Wow. So that's the big shift which is happening.
May I add something to this, just as an ordinary citizen
Go ahead,
now?
please go ahead.
You know, I think what has happened in the last 10 years, first with GST and with the PM Gati Shakti, what the Honorable Prime Minister has done is really transformational. I'm nearly 50. I'm old enough to remember what logistics used to be like, what transportation used to be like. India is more a continent than a country. And for many decades, we weren't actually one market. Those of you who are old enough will remember the long lines at Octroi Nakas, and we weren't it was easier often to import from abroad than transport within India. So GST transformed that dramatically. And then what's happening in infrastructure? I never thought I would see this pace of change. The railway infrastructure, because I have family roots in UP. And I know the passenger and the the goods trains would go on the same track now that they're separated out in many places. water transport, as you all know, is actually among the cheapest. India is blessed with a huge number of rivers. We didn't really use it in the modern day. We used to use it in ancient times. We stopped using it in the modern day. That is being revived. Our port infrastructure. So, of course, India itself will become a massive, perhaps one of the largest consumer markets in the world. But that will also help us export a lot better. It truly is transformational, what's happening. It's fantastic. And now the open network channel that's also coming up. So as a lay citizen, it's fantastic.
That's great.
And you guys should all applaud for the government. I'm not a government guy anymore. I'm just a lay citizen.
That's great, and we have some of the open network folks coming up later in the sessions as well. So, Amish, while you have spoken about what is this transformation journey that India is going through, and how is the global diaspora looking at it, what, as per you, have been, let's say, top 2 or 3 high points when you see this transformation happening from the outside?
Look, the fact that India has skills, and there's a change in international conversation, especially post 1991, and there were various kind of inflection points. If you remember the millennial bug, that gave a huge boost to our IT industry. But our image abroad was largely still service sector oriented. We were considered to be tech whizzes or more on the service side. It's only now that they are beginning to figure out that we can be very good at manufacturing as well. But a large part of it was stuff that only the government could have got together. You can manufacture very well, but if you don't have a good logistics network to transport it well, that is critically being set right. Secondly, I think one of the things that I find people in the West have realized, UK, US particularly, that outsourcing their entire manufacturing network or huge parts of their manufacturing network to China has not really been in their own long-term interests. They are realizing that. Many countries, because China has huge excess capacity. I'm sure you've read Michael Pettis, a brilliant thinker on the Chinese economy, and they want to export their lack of demand and excess capacity to the rest of the world. We'll have to suffer just because they've built too many steel plants, too many car companies, right? Which is not in our interest. Why should we suffer? Which means that all companies, it's not mercantilism, it's actually taking care of your industries from unfair competition. Which is why I'm a strong supporter of the PLI scheme that has been rolled out. Our mobile phone manufacturing would not have grown, if we hadn't done that. So there is a value in supporting our industries to become strong enough to manufacture, particularly in light of a country which has a huge excess capacity and they need someone to export it to, otherwise they will have a massive economic problem.
Thank you, Amish and Ms. Davra. If I could conclude in 10 seconds this session, I think.
Yeah, but I'm going to. Would you please carry on? I'm going to run. I'm so sorry. I have a flight to catch.
May I? Not everyone knows, but Amish is getting a Lifetime Achievement Award this evening. So a big round of applause for
it. It usually is an award given at the end of the career. I hope. I mean, you've done enough now. Retire. Hopefully, there's more left. But yes. I have to rush. Yes. My sincere apologies. I got to rush to the airport.
Just stay back for 2 minutes. That's fine.
Okay.
So in that case, I think.
So let me just take over from Mr. Sikka. So we've been talking a lot about things, and I do need to add a few more ingredients to this. First of all, when we speak about infra, we speak about planning, we speak about PM Gati Shakti, and I know Amish is a diplomat. He travels a lot, so he also needs to know this to take the narrative forward. If we look at evidence, what has been happening in the last 2 years has been quicker planning. And one example is Railways is doing their final location survey with Gati Shakti planning at 8 times the speed than previously. So they could do 450 final location surveys in 1 year, vis-a-vis 57 in the year before. The Ministry of Road Transport Highways is doing pre-alignment survey for expressways in 2 to 4 weeks compared to 6 months earlier. And thirdly, the Ministry of Petroleum, Natural Gas, for every gas pipeline project, they need 46 reports. They were taking about 6 to 9 months. Now they're doing it in 24 hours. So this is about infra, the evidence we have about the efficiency that has come into the country. Secondly, and lastly, the Logistics Performance Index. Infra helps to have better logistics, but we also need services. And you mentioned about cross-border trade. At Petropol, the trucks used to wait for 57 days. Now with the land port management system of the ministry, they are taking 24 hours because they're able to book the slots ahead of time. So 57 days down to just 24 hours of waiting for the trucks, 24 hours and less.
I can tell you those are turnaround times Western countries would die for.
So yes, and another maybe 30, 40 seconds, Ministry of Railways, the 100% electrification is almost done. The modal shift is happening, which is also carbon friendly. And the many interventions which are brought in the ports, automation, scanners, dwell time has come down, turnaround time of ships has come down. I'm not going to quote data because Amish is in a hurry and we have 57 seconds now. And the Ministry of Road Transport Highways, fast tag, all of us use it. It used to take us waiting of more than 700 seconds. Now it is less than 50 seconds of waiting. And lastly, if you talk about customs, the integration of ICE Gate, which is truly a transformational approach to handling custom-related documents. The ICE Gate has been integrated with ULIP, which is actually a digital single window for all logistics-related businesses. Those who are using would know. So I just wanted to quickly mention all this. There's a lot more, but we do have just 20 seconds left now, so I leave it to him to wrap up. Thank you so much.
It is good to get another acronym because I used to be in life insurance. And for us, ULIP was Unit Linked Insurance Plan. And
so I think, Amish, you have a whole lot of wiser narrative now to take on logistics.
I'm going to take this around and speak at all my
Thank you so much,
of course, ma'am.
both of you, Amish and Ms. Davra, for pulling out time and being on the stage and sharing your insights. Very helpful. Thank you so much.
Mr. Tripathi, before I let you go, please do give us a moment to acknowledge you and felicitate you. I'd like to request Mr. Sikka to please present you with a token of our appreciation and our love. As we wish you all the very best as you go on to accept yet another award later today, please do allow us a moment as we'd like to present you with a beautiful sapling. Yes, to lots of luck, good wishes and more coming your way. Thank you so very much. Let's hear a round of applause for Mr. Amish Tripathi as we wish him all the very best for yet another award that he will be accepting later this evening. Thank you for that. Mr. Sikka, may I request you to now please present Ms. Davra with a token of appreciation from Mr. Tripathi. And now that the author is right here, a signed copy coming from him, what can be better than that? So let's hear a round of applause for my audience. I'd also like to request my team to please set the stage for my next segment. Thank you so very much. Let's hear it up for our moderator, Mr. Sikka, the way he made sure that he weaves together that session. Very, very interesting. Thank you so very much for that. And up next, we have yet another interesting conversation coming our way from the CEO's boardroom, the big shift measuring the forces of change. And who better than the CEO himself to share more on what really goes behind the stress that they handle every day and the teams that they lead forward. So may I request all of you to please put your hands together as I now introduce and invite on stage Mr. Ashneer Grover, founder of BharatPe, third unicorn shark at Shark Tank India, author of bestseller book Dopak. And let me tell you something. When he comes on stage, all of us are looking forward to sort of come up with an idea of our startup. Well, now's the time that you
put your hands together twice harder. Let's hear it up for him, please. Thank you so very much, Mr. Grover, for being here. Taking this very interesting conversation forward is going to be Mr. Ajay Chitkara, CEO and Managing Director, Ecom Express. So may I request all of you to please put your hands together for yet another CEO right here to delve deeper into the secret mind of a CEO himself. Gentlemen, all yours. Very soon we're going to have a third speaker join us for this session. For now, it's over to you, Mr. Chitkara.
Thank you. Thanks, Ashni, for joining us, and pleasure to have you here. Most of them were waiting for you for so long, so don't waste time, start immediately. You have built many companies, and there are a lot of founders, a lot of people who are sitting here. They just wanted to know what is more important, valuation, growth, profitability, or all of this.
आवाज़ आ रही पीछे? वो मेरी वेट नहीं कर रहे हो तो हिंदी सुनने की वेट कर रहे होते हैं।
अरे इसके बिना तो चलती ही नहीं है यहाँ पे।
अब 1.5 घंटे से अंग्रेजी सुना रहे हो, 3 बजे के बाद वैसी नींद आ रही होती है। आधे लोग तो पीछे सो रहे थे, मैं देख रहा था। कि 3 चीज़ें आपने ठीक पकड़ी हैं। स्केल है, प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी है, ग्रोथ है। मेरे को लगता है एटलीस्ट 2 होनी ज़रूरी है एट एनी पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम। तो आपको फिर लगता है आप सही ट्रैक पे हो। अगर एक ही चीज़ है तो गलत ट्रैक पे हो। वो 3 चीज़ें हो गई हैं अगर, तो आईपीओ हो जाना चाहिए। फिर मतलब किसका इंतज़ार कर रहे हो मुहूर्त निकलवाने का बस। मेरे को ये लगता है कि अगर स्केल है और ग्रोथ है, देयर इनफ पीपल हु विल लाइक टू जॉइन, मतलब चाहे वो एम्प्लॉयज़ हो गए, चाहे वो इन्वेस्टर हो गए, कि ठीक है यार इवेंचुअली सॉल्व कर लेगा, प्रॉफिटेबल हो जाएगा। तीनों हो गए हैं तो फिर तो उसके बाद छोटे इन्वेस्टर की गेम ख़त्म हो गई है। फिर तो आप अपना स्टॉक लिस्ट करो, लिक्विड करो, मज़े करो। एक ही है, फिर उस पर थोड़ा फाउंडर पे आ जाता है कि वो कितनी कहानी घुमा सकता है। ठीक है, तो बहुत सारे फाउंडर तेज़ हैं, वो एक चीज़ को पकड़ के भी कहानी घुमा देते हैं बहुत टाइम तक। बट फिर वो इंडिविजुअल स्किल पे है, वो इनहेरेंट बिजनेस पे नहीं है। तो बट वो एक वाला ना, मतलब इट्स मोर स्किल, इट्स आर्ट, इट्स नॉट साइंस।
गिवन अ चॉइस, अगर आपको चॉइस दी जाए तो आप कहानी वाले पे इन्वेस्ट करोगे या तीनों वालों पे इन्वेस्ट करोगे?
यार तीनों वालों पे तो चॉइस ही कहाँ होती है साला, फिर आईपीओ हो रहा होता है, फिर वही अच्छे नए अलॉटमेंट के लिए लड़ते रहो। ठीक है, अब तो आईपीओ फाइनेंसिंग भी खत्म हो गई तो गाली भी नहीं दे सकते किसी को। पहले तो मज़ा आता था। तो तीनों वाली तो फिर यार आईपीओ है, फिर तो कुछ नहीं है ना। फिर तो आप बोल रहे हो भाई जितना बड़ा चेक लिखेगा उतनी अलॉटमेंट मिल जाएगी। मोस्टली आई हैव इन्वेस्टेड इन द फर्स्ट, मतलब लास्ट वाला जो कहानी है और एक चीज़ है। और बिकॉज मैं अर्ली स्टेज इन्वेस्टर हूँ भाई, मैंने अगर 25-50 लाख रुपए का चेक लिखना है तो शुरू में लिखने का ही मतलब है, ताकि अगर कुछ रिटर्न भी बनेगा तो मेरे लिए वहाँ से सिग्निफिकेंट रिटर्न बन सकता है। जहाँ पे 2 चीज़ें हो चुकी होती हैं वहाँ पे वैसे ही थोड़े बड़े इन्वेस्टर आने शुरू हो जाते हैं। तो एज एन इनिशियल मतलब फिर मुझे मज़ा नहीं है, इतनी अपसाइड नहीं है। आई लाइक टू टेक दैट रिस्क, मतलब आई लाइक टू टेक द रिस्क ऑन द फाउंडर। समवेयर मेरे को लगता है कि इतना इन्वेस्ट करके या इतने साल स्टार्टअप्स खुद चला के कहीं आपको एक पहचान हो जाती है कि यार ये फाउंडर सही कर रहा है या कर लेगा, इस पे पैसे लगा सकते हैं। बट आई एम ऑलवेज बेटिंग ऑन द फाउंडर। मैं 3-1 क्या, मैं तो 0 पे भी खेलने पे तैयार रहता हूँ कई बार।
जो कंपनी बनाते हैं लोग, फाउंडर्स, कल्चर की क्या इंपॉर्टेंस होती है और आपके लिए कल्चर की क्या डेफिनेशन है?
यार कल्चर मतलब कंपनी में और कल्चर का कोई लेना देना ही नहीं है दूर दूर तक। ठीक है, मतलब जबरदस्ती की रिश्तेदारी डाल रहे हो आप भाई। सिंपल सी कहानी है, आपका एम्प्लॉय दफ्तर आ रहा है काम करने, उसको ग्रोथ चाहिए, उसको तनख्वाह चाहिए, उसके बाद आपको उसको आपकी शक्ल नहीं देखनी। फैक्ट ये है, ठीक है। और जो टॉप मैनेजमेंट होती है वो लगी हुई है कल्चर बनाने में। अब भाई की काय की जबरदस्त की रिश्तेदारी कर रहा है, बहन थोड़ा ना बयानी है यार, काम कराना है, ठीक है। तो मेरे को ये बिल्कुल कल्चर वल्चर समझ ही नहीं आता, बहुत ही स्टूपिड कॉन्सेप्ट है, ठीक है। किसी के ऑफिस में अगर मेरे को टीटी की टेबल दिख जाए ना, मैं तो आग लगा दूँ उस पर केरोसिन डाल के उसी टाइम, कि साला क्या बकवास है ये, मतलब टीटी खेलने आया काम करने आया है, ठीक है। और मैं तो ये ऐसा बंदा था यार, कोई बंदा चला गया शाम को, उसके बाद मैंने पूछना ही नहीं है कि काम के लिए चला गया, ठीक है। मेरे को ये भी नहीं पता होता था मेरे दफ्तर में कोई बैठता कहाँ पे, मतलब किसी की सीट कहाँ पे। तो मेरे को कल्चर नहीं समझ आता है, मेरे को ये नहीं समझ आता कि इतना इन्वॉल्व क्यों हो रहे हो। बहुत सिंपल सी कहानी है, कैपिटल है, एंटरप्राइज है, लेबर है, टेक्नोलॉजी है। हर बिजनेस में चारों चीज़ लगेंगी। अगर आप लेबर को लेबर मान के चलो, एंड मतलब ऑल मैनेजमेंट इज लेबर ना बाय डेफिनेशन। अब कोई अपने आप को लेबर बोल दो तो लोग ऑफेंड हो जाते हैं, साले मेरे को लेबर कैसे बोल रहा है। भाई वो लेबर से मतलब इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन के टाइम लेबर वो थी जो फर्नेस में आग डाल रही है या दीवार चुनवा रही है। आज की डेट में तुम लेबर हो, फैक्ट है, राइट। एंड यू नो लाला लाला है, एंटरप्राइज है, टेक्नोलॉजी टेक्नोलॉजी है, कैपिटल है। तो सबको अगर उस तरीके से ट्रीट करो तो लाइफ सिंपल हो जाती है, मेरे को लगता है। कल्चर बनाने के चक्कर में ना आप सीमेंट लगा रहे हो तो दो डिफरेंट चीज़ों के बीच में, जो कभी बैठने नहीं वाला।
तो जो आज मुझे नई चीज़ समझ में आई, शायद आई थिंक लाला, टेक्नोलॉजी, लेबर और चौथा, चार थे, तीन ही थे, कैपिटल। यही चार चीज़ें कंपनी बनाती हैं। अगर आप लोग इसमें से कुछ भी और सोच रहे हो तो इस पे ज़रूर ध्यान देना। आई थिंक आज के बाद से ये सारी डेफिनेशन कल्चर वल्चर की भूल जाना, ये नया आइटम है, इस पे ज़्यादा फोकस करके चलो और लेट्स स्टे ऑन दिस। सो अशनीर, look, the building brand, marketing, how important is this for a company?
ये मेरे को लगता है ब्रांड बनाना काफ़ी इम्पोर्टेंट है। अदरवाइज़ क्या होता है, फिर आप कमोडिटी बिजनेस बन के रह जाओगे। उसके आपको प्रीमियम कोई भी किसी चीज़ का दे रहा है, वो इसलिए क्योंकि आपका ब्रांड है। नाउ हाफ द टाइम पीपल थिंक ब्रांड बनाना मतलब मैं एडवर्टीजमेंट कर लूँ या मैं कोई ब्रांड एम्बेसडर रख लूँ, राइट। दे थिंक इट्स अ मार्केटिंग जॉब, ब्रांड तो मार्केटिंग वाले बनाएंगे, बट दैट्स नॉट द केस। ब्रांड सबको बनाना है, मतलब आपका प्रोडक्ट इतना सॉलिड होना चाहिए कि वो दूसरा बंदा दूसरे को रिकमेंड करे, ठीक है, या आपके क्लाइंट्स रिकमेंड करें दूसरे क्लाइंट को कि यार ये इनके साथ काम करो, बहुत सही है। दैट इज़ ऑल्सो ब्रांड, राइट। आपका इन्वेस्टर दूसरे इन्वेस्टर को बोले यार इसमें पैसे डाल, सही कर रहे हैं, दैट इज़ ऑल्सो ब्रांड, राइट। बट यूजुअली हम वी कंफ्यूज बिटवीन ब्रांड एंड मार्केटिंग इन सम सेंस। B2B में भी ब्रांड बनाना बहुत ज़रूरी है। इसके आधा टाइम को लोग बोलते हैं यार मैं क्यों ब्रांड बनाऊँ, मैं तो कंज्यूमर फेसिंग बिजनेस ही नहीं हूँ। एंड क्लासिक केस वाज विद मी व्हेन आई वाज बिल्डिंग भारत पे। मेरा तो QR लगा होता था दुकान पे, ठीक है। तो मेरे को तो मेरा रिश्ता तो दुकानदार के साथ था, मेरे को कस्टमर का कोई लेना देना ही नहीं था दूर दूर तक। बट स्टिल आई हैड दिस बिलीव कि आपको ब्रांड बनाना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज एक दुकानदार आपका QR क्यों लगाए ओवर द अदर गाय, उसको हमेशा ही शक होगा ना, साला कौन सी नई कंपनी है भारत पे करके, पेटीएम अच्छा चल रहा है तो मेरा एक QR लगा, मैं इसका क्यों लगाऊं, मैं इस पर क्यों विश्वास करूं मेरे पैसे को हैंडल करने के लिए, राइट। एंड सेम इज़ द केस विद यू। लॉट ऑफ क्लाइंट वुड से कि यार मेरा कस्टमर एक्सपीरियंस तुम डिफाइन कर रहे वाले हो ना आगे से, एंड ऑफ द डे कस्टमर के घर तो तुम माल पहुँचाओगे, राइट। तो बट इफ़ यू हैव अ क्या कहते हैं, इफ़ यू पुट एफर्ट इन क्रिएटिंग अ ब्रांड, इट विल give back in ways which you cannot quantify upfront. मैंने शुरू में जैसे नाम ही रखा था भारत पे, राइट। आधे लोगों को लगता है सरकारी कंपनी है, मोदी जी की है, ठीक है। एंड मैं तो अपने एजेंट्स को बोलता था साला किसी को बताना ही नहीं हम प्राइवेट हैं। भाई वो सोच रहा मैं सरकारी हूँ, अच्छी बात है, मोदी जी ने ब्रांड बनाया, रब ऑफ इफेक्ट आ रहा है, लगे रहो, ठीक है। सो थोड़े टाइम तक तो हमने वो खेला कि लोगों को लगता था सरकारी कंपनी है, मेरे पैसे कहाँ डूबेंगे, से इनके साथ काम करते हैं। देन आई टुक सलमान खान एज ब्रांड एम्बेसडर। नॉर्थ में काफ़ी सही चला, फिर मेरी सेल्स टीम आके बोलने लगी सर साउथ में कोई नहीं जानता सलमान को, ठीक है, तो आप महेश बाबू को ले लो, ठीक है, हर वो 4 इंडियन सदर्न स्टेट है ना, हर एक का अपना सुपरस्टार है मतलब, तो मैंने बोला बड़े सारे सुपरस्टार लग जाएंगे इस चक्कर में तो एक दिन क्या हुआ कि कोई मेरे पास आया, बोलता है कि आप कोहली और अनुष्का को ले लो, ठीक है, तो मेरे को लगा मैंने कौन से कुर्ते पजामे और घाघरे बेचने यहाँ पे, ठीक है, इन दोनों को लेके, तो वो मेरे को बोलता है कि 7 करोड़ में कोहली आ जाएगा, 9 करोड़ में मैं दोनों की डील कर दूंगा। अब मेरे को, मैं सलमान को उस टाइम पे देता था 3.5 पौने 4, बहुत तो मैंने उसको मतलब घिस घिस के डील करी थी, तो मेरे को ये था कि यार इतना नहीं देना, 4.25 देता था, मैंने बोला 4.5 का बजट है, तू लिया कोहली को, फिर बोलता नहीं सर कोहली तो आता नहीं है 7 से नीचे, मैंने बोला कोई और क्रिकेटर दे दे, बोलते हैं कि किसी की औकात नहीं है कोहली के सिवाय, मतलब वो एजेंसी वाला बोल रहा है, मैं नहीं बोल रहा, बट द एजेंसी फेल्ट कि किसी की औकात नहीं है कोहली के बिना, तो मैंने बोला ठीक है एक काम कर 4.5 रख, मैं तेरे से किसी का नहीं पूछूंगा तूने किसको कितने पैसे दिए, मेरे को 11 प्लेयर ला दे, भाई तू ही बोल रहा है ना किसी की औकात नहीं है, तो अगर नहीं है तो फिर दाम लगाने पे प्रूव होना चाहिए ना, दैट्स हाउ आई गॉट 11 ब्रांड एम्बेसडर्स, राइट, खुंदक में कि भाई ये ले 4.5 करोड़ रुपए रख, 11 लिया, इंक्लूडिंग रोहित शर्मा, ठीक है, हु हैड नॉट बिकम द कैप्टन टिल देन, सो मेरे को तो मजा आता था ब्रांड बिल्डिंग में, मेरे को लगता है ये even as a founder it is one thing which gives you that extra kick or excitement beyond building the business and the growth.
So I think एक नई लर्निंग है कि मार्केटिंग किसी भी ब्रांड एम्बेसडर को चाहिए, टेक द एडवाइस, आप हमारी मदद करना अगर हमें भी किसी को चाहिए होगा, सो आई थिंक दिस इज अ ग्रेट एडवाइस फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस, हाउ टू बिल्ड द ब्रांड एंड हाउ टू सी द ब्रांड इन B2B. I think we have another guest who's joining us. Sorry, I'll just invite I just saw your...
Right indeed, and may I request all of you to please put your hands together as I now welcome Mr. Deepak Agarwal, founder and managing director, Kazo Fashion, as the team sets the stage up and as we look forward to taking these very interesting conversations forward and also into the world of fashion and retail. Extending a very warm welcome to Mr. Deepak Agarwal joining the conversations.
Thanks, Deepak, for joining. Deepak, you build a fashion brand and a premium brand. Just tell us your story, what you did, how you built, what was the key learnings there.
Like Ashmin was saying, to build a brand, of course, is the main thing. And I was very passionate about the brand. So brand, I'll try to speak in Hindi, yes, Ashmin, right? I'll try my best.
Ashmin ने viral कर दिया ये भी कि हिंदी में यहाँ के सब जने बोलेंगे.
I'm not like that, but okay, I'll try. See, brand banana is बहुत आसान काम नहीं है. It's, I think, if you've seen the brands which has come to India and gone, right? The bigger companies like Tata, Birla, Reliance and all, they can all bring brands, right? But when it comes to a fashion brand, I think it's very difficult to bring a brand unless until you're passionate about the brand and you're into the product by yourself. Because brand banane ke liye you have to really focus on the bigger picture of the brand, not just if you're selling right now, like you said about those 3 things, right? Scalability, profitability, and so on. So the thing here which comes in the brand is to ensure that people are really understanding you as a brand, and they are believing that if they're wearing your product, they are upgraded and they are into the trend. And I think that is the biggest task when you're making a fashion brand, to ensure that they feel confident when they wear your brand. And initially when we were building the brand, it was a lot of tough point that was coming in. Okay, we are not selling accordingly, and the season have to be changed, and you have to pull out the merchandise. And that is where I see a lot of brands in India have been failing, because they never used to pull the merchandise out which has been a season old. You have to pull that out and put the new merchandise in, because that's one way to build the brand, to show, yes, you can make new product and people have to believe in this. And do not continue making the same old products and just because you want to sell them. You have to first sell the brand. You have to first ensure that the brand is acceptable by bringing the new product in the industry again and again.
थैंक्स फॉर शेयरिंग। तो एक चीज़ जो मुझे समझ में आ रही है कि गर्मी आने पे पुराने स्वेटर मत बेचो।
Not only that, that's one point. It's also, I think, it's a lot that you have to, on not only the product, it's also the whole experience, how the store should look like, how they've been serviced. So even today, I think B2C, as he said, Bharat Pay was recognized as a Modi's company, right? Same way, I think also B2C, they believe it's an international brand, and it has been a franchisee out of India, and I'm not telling anybody, and I'm just hiding something behind, and I'm just a franchisee guy up here. So, which is okay, let the people believe that. That's fine for us. It's only B2B who knows it, so it's okay.
I think when I engaged with you first time, I realized it's an Indian brand. I was not aware. So I think you must have done amazing work to making sure at least it has that presence and the capability which you guys have.
Thank you. Yeah, of course, we did a lot on that to make that the look should be absolutely international. I have a lot of time debate with the mall managements, because when the mall is opening and you say, okay, this is an international zone, and this is a national zone, and they always want to give us a place in a national zone. I said, what do you mean by a national zone or an international zone? Why should we not talk about the product? Is the product equivalent to the international product or a domestic product? That's the way you have to look at it. Why are you looking at a company? If it is originated from Europe, it's an international company. If it's originated from India, it's a national company. That's a total wrong approach. So I've been having quite a few debates with a lot of mall managements on this.
Great, thanks. I just need one question to you. There's a lot of talk around omni-channel, D2C. Any views on that? How do you see this whole omni-channel discussion which is happening? And there are a lot of people in the hall here who belongs to that segment. Is there any advice, any suggestions for them?
यार सी ऑनलाइन और ऑफलाइन दोनों ही बड़ी मार्केट है, ठीक है। प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि जब आप इंटरनेट बिजनेस बनाने लगते हो तो कहीं पे आपका ना एक बायस आ जाता है कि मेरे को डिजिटली कस्टमर एक्वायर करना है। मेरे को हमेशा लगता है कि कस्टमर सस्ता कहाँ पे मिल रहा है वहाँ पे एक्वायर कर लो। जब मैं भी बना रहा था तो एक चीज़ मेरे को पूछते थे यार कि तुम्हारे मॉडल में प्रॉब्लम है, तो एक एजेंट को भेजता है दुकान पे और वो जाके उनको ऐप डाउनलोड कराता है और उनको QR चिपका के आता है। तो मैंने बोला इसमें प्रॉब्लम क्या है, एंड दे सेड कि डिजिटल नहीं है। तो मैंने बोला अगर यही काम मैं डिजिटली करूँगा, प्रॉब्लम समझो, हिंदुस्तान में 140 करोड़ लोग हैं, 70 करोड़ के पास फ़ोन है, उसमें से मेरे को 2-2.5 करोड़ दुकानदार ढूंढने हैं, ठीक है। तो मैं 70 करोड़ लोगों को टारगेट करूँगा ताकि मैं उन 2-2.5 करोड़ दुकानदार पे पहुँचूँ। तो मेरा वैसे ही कन्वर्जन रेशियो 1/35 है। तो मेरी कॉस्ट कितनी ज़्यादा आएगी एक्विजिशन की एक बंदी। उसकी जगह अगर मेरे को पता है यार ये खान मार्केट है, ये लाजपत नगर मार्केट है, वहीं पे मैंने मार्केट के स्कोप के हिसाब से 3 एजेंट 4 एजेंट छोड़ दिए। सुबह से शाम उनको क्या करना है, पहले एक दुकान में घुसना है, फिर दूसरी दुकान में घुसना है, फिर तीसरे में घुसना है, तीसरे में कोई लंच कर रहा है बोलेगा चलो ठीक है वापसी में चक्कर लगा लूँगा। तो मेरी कस्टमर एक्विजिशन कॉस्ट एक मर्चेंट की 200 रुपये आती थी। उस टाइम पे हम बोलते थे $3 के करीब, विच वॉज सो लो। मतलब मैं कुछ भी डिजिटली करके वो कभी कर ही नहीं सकता था। सो घूम फिर के आपको ये देखना है कि आपका कस्टमर एक्विजिशन कॉस्ट लो कहाँ पड़ रहा है। ऑफलाइन में पड़ रहा है ऑफलाइन कर लो, ऑनलाइन में पड़ रहा है ऑनलाइन कर लो, क्या फ़र्क पड़ रहा है। एंड ऑफ द डे धंधा चलना चाहिए।
Any views from your side on this?
See, I think online, offline is a big difference, but for us also, I believe offline is, we are an offline brand, right? And online is there because it has to be there, and people expect to buy from online as well. But the business overall, if you see, I think it doesn't make too much sense. You have to be there because you have to give the channel as well, right? The number of returns, the handling, it's a big task. It's a very, very big task. So, and people talk about omni-channel, you're talking about the omni-channel. Omni-channel, I think it is, depends upon the product to product. For a fashion brand like us, so I think omni-channel doesn't make sense because we are a boutique premium fashion, right? We're having stores in all the malls. To make a delivery from the mall and to it has to be to get back, then mall says their revenue share, it's too complicated to take the deliveries and send, and then to train a person to send the delivery. It's too complicated. I think it could be a mixed version of omnichannel, which is like, okay, if there's something which a client is looking and is not available in the store, and they want to have immediately, that can be placed order in the store from the store staff and can be delivered to the store directly from the central warehouse. So that could be in different service level, immediate delivery, express delivery, or whatever, right? That way, I think it's a better combination.
Thanks for clarifying. I was a bit worried कि आप हमारे customer हो कि नहीं हो, because you said omni-channel and you have only stores in mall, but I agree. I think omni-channel, not from the stores and going and delivering, making sure at least it can happen from a remote location, and eventually it is being delivered. Yeah. So thank you for clarifying. Otherwise, मेरा दिल बैठ गया था थोड़ा सा. I think to both of you, one last question, and that is, look, it's a logistics discussion which we are doing, and in e-commerce, logistics is proxy. Like e-commerce operate, without logistics it can't operate. Any view, any feedback from each one of you of what logistic players should be focusing on? What is a priority for you if you need to pick a partner like?
Yeah, like, see, as a layman customer, मेरे को तो अपना माल जल्दी चाहिए. That is the only thing I care about. अब मेरे को नहीं फर्क पड़ रहा है e-com डिलीवर कर रहा है या खुद का कैप्टिव बंदा डिलीवर कर रहा है, कौन डिलीवर कर रहा है. कस्टमर को जो जल्दी चीज़ पहुंचाएगा उसकी वैल्यू है. आई थिंक समवेयर Amazon हैज़ क्रैक्ड इट, राइट, कि कई बार तो यूर सरप्राइज कि एंड ऑफ लेट इवन ब्लिंकिट हैज़ क्रैक्ड इट, कि यूर सरप्राइज कि साला मेरे गेट पे खड़ा था क्या सामान लेके. यू नो, लिटरली कई बार ऐसे लगता है साला ऐसे गेट पे खड़ा हुआ था बस और घंटी बजा दी. तो एज अ कस्टमर यू विल बी, यू नो, एंड वो आपका तभी आने वाला है जब आपकी डेंसिटी है. आई थिंक लॉजिस्टिक्स में एंड इन एनी इंटरनेट बिजनेस, इन न्यू एज बिजनेस, वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट चैलेंजेस, लोग ये सोचने लगते हैं कि बिकॉज मेरा इंटरनेट ड्रिवन बिजनेस है तो बाय डेफिनेशन मैं नेशनल प्लेयर हो गया. एंड दैट्स वेयर द स्टोरी गोज बैड. यू नो, when I was building Grofers along with Albinder, one of the discussions always was कि यार नया शहर खोलना है या दिल्ली को ही फोड़ते रहते हैं. Because if अगर दिल्ली का दिल्ली पकड़ लो साला फ्रांस है. In terms of size, you know, if you just say कि मेरे को दिल्ली मार्केट ही करना है, you are not downscaling your ambition. You are saying मैं फ्रांस कर रहा हूँ, यूरोप में पूरा फ्रांस कवर कर रहा हूँ, उतनी बड़ी मार्केट है, in a much smaller area, right? So building density in a city, I would always value above just saying कि मैं तो जी 300 शहर में available हूँ. Classic case, I invested in this company called Blue Electric. Cabs आती हैं जो electric cabs. Same discussion. Right? उनका दिल्ली में business चल रहा था, 2000 के करीब कैब थी. And they were, वो था ना, खुरक होती है कि हम बैंगलोर लॉन्च करते हैं यार, मतलब हर स्टार्टअप बैंगलोर में है तो हमारा प्रोडक्ट बैंगलोर में होना चाहिए. एंड आई यूज्ड टू टेल देम बेवकूफ़ी है, मतलब तेरे पास 2000 गाड़ी दिल्ली में तो, और तेरा वेटिंग टाइम 35 मिनट है, तो तेरी सब सर्विस अच्छी है, सब कुछ बढ़िया है, बट फिर भी तू, यू आर लाइक द एमेक्स कार्ड, ठीक है, कि पहले ट्राई कर लेंगे, चल गया तो, पर नहीं चला तो चल वीज़ा तो है वो तो चल ही जाएगा, राइट. सो ब्लू वॉज लाइक दैट कि चलो ट्राई करते हैं, अगर हमारे पास टाइम है, कैब आ गई तो आ गई, वरना ऊबर तो है 5 मिनट में आई जाएगी. सो आई टोल्ड देम कि वो मत करो, मत जाओ बैंगलोर. नेक्स्ट जो 2000 गाड़ी डाल रहे हो वो भी दिल्ली में डाल लो, ठीक है, तुम्हारा मे बी वेट टाइम 35 मिनट से 20 मिनट आ जाएगा. एंड दैट विल क्रिएट सो मच मोर डिमांड, क्रिएट सो मच मोर डिपेंडेबिलिटी. सो आई एम स्लाइटली मोर बायस्ड ऑन बीइंग मोर फोकस्ड ऑन one city and killing it rather than just going all over the place.
Thanks for sharing. Any views from your side?
Well, I think the logistic companies can have a lot of different variations of, they do have, but I think there's still a lot big way to go. Like I think right now, as for the brand like us, which are very much fashion oriented, and is a lot of returns is there, right? So returns are a bigger factor. So if a service, for example, they can have normal delivery, express delivery, which are they having, and then there's a confirmed delivery within 24 hours. And then also the same way the returns. So a lot of people are having complaints about the returns, that especially when they're comparing our services of .com compared to Mantra or Amazon, because of course they have a different system to follow, and which of course their systems are much robust than us, right? To take the delivery back, it's a pain, because we need to ensure the people are for sure tricking it around, that the QC has to be done. Once the QC is to be done, and then the payment could be made immediately. So if that is a logistic partner is offering, so okay, I take the responsibility, doing the QC and making the payment on the spot at the door. Could be a good service, I think.
Great, thank you very much for your time, and I think it was a pleasure interacting both of you, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Mr. Chitkara, before I let you go, and I personally thank each of our speakers and present them with a token of our appreciation, I'd like to request you to please stay on. And a bigger round of applause for our CEOs right here will be much appreciated. A very, very interesting, candid conversation right here. We learned very many secret recipes to success. And like I said, quite a few of them were very, very different. So thank you so very much. It's been a pleasure listening in and learning. Presenting them each with Mr. Tripathi's books. Let's have a group picture. Smile for the frame right there. Thank you so very much. And as we set our stage up next for our next segment, a segment where you are definitely going to get to learn a lot from a very young and dynamic leader out there who's literally created a change in the news industry out here. And before I get set and invite him here to tell us more about people, process, and products, the recipe for disruption, may I request all of you to please put your hands together as I welcome Mr. Azhar Iqbal, CEO and co-founder. In Shorts, definitely an app that's created waves when it comes to news and how short and quickly one can deliver it. So welcome, Iqbal. What a pleasure to have you right here and making sure that we unveil a lot many secrets right here. Taking this conversation forward is going to be Ms. Pooja Jain from the Times Network. Let's hear a round of applause for her as she joins us on stage. Pooja, over to you. Let's look forward to this fantastic session.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And our MC is absolutely right, because In Shorts has completely transformed how India consumes current affairs. And it's such an honor and pleasure to be joined by a young, dynamic entrepreneur who's changing media consumption patterns as we know it. Huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Azhar Iqbal. So Azhar, as an IIT dropout to now a news app CEO, आपकी जो सफ़र रही है, सफलता का सफ़र, वो थोड़ा हटके से रहा है, right? थोड़ा unconventional सा रहा है, और इससे ये साबित होता है कि there is no one-size-fits-all formula when it comes to career-defining leadership, when it comes to success. आपका क्या कहना है इसको लेकर?
आपने कहा कि मेरी जर्नी थोड़ी अनकन्वेंशनल रही है,
बिल्कुल।
तो इस पे मैं कहना चाहूँगा, अगर आप किसी भी एंटरप्रेन्योर को उठाएंगे तो बाय डेफिनेशन ऑफ बीइंग एन एंटरप्रेन्योर सबसे पहले उसको अनकन्वेंशनल होना पड़ेगा. दैट्स हाउ, बिकॉज बीइंग एन एंटरप्रेन्योर सबसे पहले आप चीज़ों को क्वेश्चन करते हो, जो चीज़ें जिस तरह से चलते आ रही है. तो प्रॉब्ली मैं बोलूँगा मैं अनकन्वेंशनल, मैं नहीं, शायद सारे एंटरप्रेन्योर्स ही होते हैं बाय डिज़ाइन ही.
हाउ इज़ दैट ह्यूमिलिटी, लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन? अमेजिंग. और जब हम इन शॉर्ट्स की शुरुआत की बात करते हैं तो एक साधारण सा फेसबुक ऐप से उसकी शुरुआत हुई, फिर जाके बहुत ही महीनों बाद आपका ऐप लॉन्च हुआ जिसके आज मिलियंस में, लाखों में सब्सक्राइबर हैं. मैं ये कहना चाहूँगी कि इस सफ़र में किस हद तक टेक्नोलॉजी ने आपके मिशन को, आपके विजन को, आपके एम्बिशंस को बढ़ावा दिया?
आई थिंक अगर आज के ज़माने में लेंगे तो जितने भी बिजनेसेस हैं उन सब में टेक्नोलॉजी का एक काफ़ी ही बड़ा रोल है. हमारे केस में तो इट्स प्योर प्लेयर टेक्नोलॉजी बिजनेस अगर लेते हैं, बट आप इन जनरल भी बिजनेसेस को उठाएंगे तो बिना टेक्नोलॉजी के तो आज के डेट पे कोई भी बिजनेस इमेजिन करना शायद इम्पॉसिबल है मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग पे जितना लेंगे, क्योंकि ये ईदर आपका सब कुछ है अगर टेक्नोलॉजी लेंगे आपके बिजनेस का, या एक बिग पार्ट तो डेफिनेटली होगा अगर सब कुछ नहीं होगा। तो आज के रेट पे इसके बिना तो कोई भी बिजनेस इमेजिन करना मेरे ख्याल से थोड़ा टफ हो जाएगा।
तो देखिए सर, कहते हैं लोग कि इंफॉर्मेशन का दौर है, पर सच्चाई तो ये भी है कि मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन का दौर है। तो टेक्नोलॉजी को किस हद तक इस्तेमाल किया जा सकता है जिससे कि इन दोनों की बीच की दूरी को ख़त्म कर दिया जाए?
अब देखिए, ये तो बहुत ही एक डिबेटेड टॉपिक हो जाता है कि टेक्नोलॉजी से मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन जो रहता है, इस पे सारे ही जितने भी आई थिंक प्लेयर इन द इंडस्ट्री हैं अपने साइड से बेस्ट ट्राई करते हैं, बट चूंकि यहाँ पे एक स्पीड की लड़ाई है तो उसमें थोड़ा सा मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन रहता है, बट आई एम होपिंग कि विथ टाइम ये चीज़ें बेटर होते जाए शायद।
इंशाल्लाह। और आप शार्क टैंक इंडिया सीज़न 3 के लेटेस्ट जज हैं, न्यूएस्ट फेस हैं। आप सारी जजिंग पैनल में से सबसे यंगेस्ट हैं, आपकी उम्र सबसे कम है, यही अपने आप में बहुत बड़ी बात है। ह्यूज राउंड ऑफ अपलॉज लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन, न्यू जज शार्क टैंक इंडिया सीज़न 3। पर देखा जाए तो बाजी सी पलट गई है, क्योंकि अब आप इवैल्यूएट कर रहे हैं नेक्स्ट जेन इंडिया के एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को, उनकी उम्मीदों को, उनके सपनों को। हाउ डज इट फील टू बी ऑन द अदर साइड ऑफ द टेबल सर?
देखिए, मतलब इस क्वेश्चन का आंसर मैं क्या ही करूं, मतलब किसी के लिए भी एक हैप्पी फीलिंग होगी टू बी ए पार्ट ऑफ द शो अगर लेते हैं तो। और जैसे मेरी जर्नी पिछले 10 साल में अगर लेते हैं तो बीइंग एन एंटरप्रेन्योर की जर्नी थी, तो अब मैं अगर दूसरों के इसमें पार्टिसिपेट कर पाऊंगा दूसरों की जर्नी में, तो डेफिनेटली एक अच्छा हैप्पी फीलिंग होगा वो।
और सर देखिए, यू हैव फाउंड अ फैन क्लब इन नेक्स्ट जेन इंडिया along with the generation prior. ठीक है? You have a universal appeal. तो when you made the decision कि मैं IIT में पढ़ता हूँ पर मुझे पढ़ाई छोड़नी है, मुझे ये न्यूज़ ऐप फॉर्म करनी है, मुझे एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप में बस अपना झंडा गाड़ना है, किस तरह आपको फैमिली का सपोर्ट मिला? और अगर if there are entrepreneurs in this room that are facing that same situation, अपने बच्चों के साथ, अपने दोस्तों के साथ, तो आप उन्हें क्या एडवाइस देना चाहेंगे?
तो लोगों को एडवाइस देने से अधिक मैं शायद अपनी स्टोरी शेयर करता हूँ, मे भी शायद उससे, क्योंकि एडवाइस शायद मैं जनरली इसलिए देना पसंद नहीं करता हूँ, मुझे लगता है जनरली हर किसी की लाइफ अपनी अपनी तरीके से चल रही है,
बिल्कुल,
तो सब किसी का अपना एक उसमें व्यू होगा। मैं अपनी जर्नी शेयर करता हूँ, मैं कैसे लैंड किया और मैंने क्यों कॉलेज छोड़ी और इन शॉर्ट्स को आगे बढ़ाने की कोशिश करी। तो जब मैं फर्स्ट ईयर ऑफ कॉलेज में गया था, तो मैं एक छोटे से शहर से बिलोंग करता हूँ, किशनगंज इन बिहार से
जी।
तो टिपिकली जो हमारे यहाँ पे बचपन से आपको ट्रेनिंग मिलती है कि आप अच्छे कॉलेज जाओगे, अच्छे से इंजीनियरिंग करोगे, तो एक बड़े कॉर्पोरेट गूगल फेसबुक में आपको जॉब लग जाएगी और आप अच्छे डॉलर्स में पैसे छाप सकते हो। मोटा मोटा ये रास्ता कहीं ना कहीं जीवन का चल रहा था।
बिल्कुल।
तो जब IIT दिल्ली पहुँचे तो कॉलेज का अगर करिकुलम लेंगे तो मैं उस पर बहुत ज़्यादा फिट इन हो नहीं पा रहा था। मैंने काफ़ी पढ़ने की कोशिश की, चीज़ों को समझने की कोशिश की, बट उसमें बहुत मज़ा आ नहीं रहा था। मीनवाइल जब मैं 2009 में कॉलेज गया था, तो 2009 में ही फ्लिपकार्ट मेरे ही कॉलेज के सीनियर्स का मतलब स्टार्टअप था। तो 2007 में फ्लिपकार्ट शुरू हुआ था। तो जब फ्लिपकार्ट 2007 में शुरू हुआ था, तो 2009 के टाइम पे जब मैंने उसको फॉलो करना शुरू किया था, तो 9, 10, 11, 12 वो हर साल बड़ा होता जा रहा था। तो जब मैंने फ्लिपकार्ट की जर्नी को देखना शुरू किया, तो मुझे लगा ये टेक्निकली एक ह्यूमन बीइंग को जनरली लाइफ में क्या चाहिए होता है? पैसे चाहिए होते हैं, थोड़ा सा क्रेडिबिलिटी या फेम या रेस्पेक्ट जो कहेंगे वो चाहिए होता है, फ्रीडम टू वर्क चाहिए होता है, अपने तरीके से मतलब कहीं ना कहीं हम जी सके वैसा चाहिए होता है, कुछ इम्पैक्ट ला सकें, जो भी बेसिक चीज़ें आप नोट डाउन करते हो। तो मुझे पता चला एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप नाम की चीज़ है और इससे कहीं ना कहीं वो सारी चीज़ें टिक होते जा रही है। तो जब मैंने पहली बार फ्लिपकार्ट किया, मुझे पता चला था, तो उस साल उनका ईयरली रेवेन्यू कुछ 6 करोड़ था। तो मुझे बस उस टाइम पे इतना समझ आया था कि इनकी कोई ऑनलाइन दुकान है जिसमें 6 करोड़ का सालाना माल बेच रहे हैं ये। तो मुझे वो लगा कि यार ऐसे बिजनेस कर सकते हैं शायद। तो वहाँ से बिजनेस करने का आई थिंक एक कीड़ा लगा और ऐसे मल्टीपल अटेम्प्ट्स लेते रहे। लकीली एक कॉन्सेप्ट जो हमारा 60 वर्ड न्यूज़ का था वो हिट कर गया।
सर आप कह रहे हैं लकीली, पर लक के पीछे बहुत मेहनत होती है और बहुत फेलियर्स भी होते हैं सर, बहुत उतार चढ़ाव होता है। तो आप ऐसे कोई किस्से हमारे साथ शेयर करें जब आपको लगा कि बहुत हो चुका, IIT ही सही था, कभी वो आपकी जहन में आया यू टर्न मारने का ख्याल?
सबसे पहले तो आपको कहेंगे लकीली वर्ड जो आपने उस पर रोका था, मैं उस पर एक चीज़ डेफिनेटली मेरे अकॉर्डिंग से मैं बोलना चाहूँगा. देखिए जैसे अगर आप लाइफ में लेंगे तो मैं लकीली इस एंगल से बोल रहा था कि जब हमने बिजनेस स्टार्ट किया था, बिजनेस के लिए आपका एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ होता है, वो होता है टाइमिंग. टेक्निकली आपका टाइमिंग ऑफ, जैसे जब हमने अपना बिजनेस स्टार्ट किया था उसी टाइम पे आपका लेंगे तो मोबाइल इकोसिस्टम इंडिया में राइज कर रहा था. तो वो टाइमिंग आपके बिजनेस का हिट होना ये पार्ट ऑफ लक है. मैं उस एंगल से वो उस पर आ रहा था. और आपने बोला कि यू टर्न मारने की बात जिस पे आपने कही, तो इस पे मेरा जनरल एक व्यू रहता है कि एंटरप्रेन्योर्स बनने से पहले ना मेरा एक बहुत स्ट्रांग व्यू रहता है, जनरली उन लोगों को एंटरप्रेन्योर बनना चाहिए जो थोड़े से कहीं ना कहीं ओवर कॉन्फिडेंट होते हैं, या थोड़े से हम लोग अपने लैंग्वेज यूज़ करते हैं हठी आदमी होता है. मतलब जो चीज़ों की जो जनरली चीज़ें नहीं सुनता है. मतलब मुझे लगता है वो एक इंपॉर्टेंट मेट्रिक होना चाहिए आपका, और तभी आप इस जर्नी में आगे जाएंगे. तो जनरली मैं बोलूँगा शायद वो रहता है हमेशा कॉन्फिडेंस की ठीक है मैं ये काम कर लूँगा.
Wonderful, ladies and gentlemen. What a candid story. और ऐसी कोई लाइफ फिलॉसफी, ऐसा कोई मैनेजमेंट मंत्रा that you live your life by, Azhar?
ऐसा कोई मैनेजमेंट मंत्रा मैं अगर बोलना चाहूँगा तो अच्छा, मैनेजमेंट मंत्रा में मैं बोलूँगा फ्रॉम एन एंटरप्रेन्योर्स लेंस. मतलब अगर मैं लेता हूँ तो वो माइट बी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम आप किस प्रोफेशन में है. तो मैं मेरे एंटरप्रेन्योर्स के लेंस से बताता हूँ, जिस एक लेंस पे मैं रखता हूँ चीज़ों को. तो जो मैंने थोड़ी देर पहले ही बोला था कि एंटरप्रेन्योर्स के लिए जो सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट है ना, आप बाय क्या कहते हैं डिफ़ॉल्ट ही आप एक एंटरप्रेन्योर तभी बन रहे हैं आप जब चीज़ों को क्वेश्चन कर रहे हैं लाइफ में. तो क्वेश्चन कर रहे हैं तो डिफ़ॉल्टली ही आप एंटरप्रेन्योर जब बनना चाहेंगे तो आपको काफ़ी ऑप्टिमिस्ट होना पड़ेगा. तो उस पर मैं एक मंत्रा काफ़ी ही स्ट्रांगली अपने लाइफ में यूज़ करता हूँ उसमें. तो एक कहते हैं कि पैसिमिस्ट जो लोग होते हैं ना, ठीक है, पैसिमिस्ट आर जनरली राइट. अगर कोई आपको क्रिटिसाइज करने के लिए बैठा होगा तो मोस्टली टाइम पे वो आदमी करेक्ट होगा, चूंकि आप बहुत ऑप्टिमिज्म की बात कर रहे हैं. बट इसका है कि पैसिमिस्ट्स आर जनरली राइट बट ऑप्टिमिस्ट्स आर दोज हु चेंज द वर्ल्ड. तो इस चीज को
Huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Continues.
तो इस एक पर्टिकुलर मंत्रा को मैं काफ़ी फॉलो करता हूँ, और मुझे लगता है ऑप्टिमिज्म से आपके लाइफ में ओवर टाइम आपको फ़ायदा ही होगा देन नुकसान होगा. ऑप्टिमिज्म का डेफिनेटली है फॉल बैक होता है, आप काफ़ी बार गिरते हैं, बट आप जनरली अगर लाइफ ऑप्टिमिस्टिक वे में जीते हैं तो ओवर टाइम आपके लिए वो काफ़ी बेनिफिशियल होता जाता है.
और अजहर देखा जाए तो एज मिलेनियल्स वी आर द इंस्टेंट ग्रेटिफिकेशन जनरेशन, और ये नफ्स आपने पकड़ ली थी बहुत ही पहले. एक एंटरप्रेन्योर के लिए उस तरह की सोच और नफ्स पकड़ना कितना ज़रूरी है?
देखिए मैं इस पे बोलना चाहूँगा, मैंने कोई नब्ज शायद एंटरप्रेन्योर्स की मतलब ऑडियंस की नहीं पकड़ी थी, खुद की पकड़ी थी. मेरे लिए खुद का एक बड़ा प्रॉब्लम था, मैं खुद उतना नहीं, मतलब मेरे से कंसंट्रेशन मेरा बहुत स्ट्रांग नहीं है. मैं वन ऑफ दोज फ्यू स्टूडेंट हुआ करता था जो आधे घंटे पढ़ने बैठेगा उसके बाद वो टेबल से उठ जाएगा. मैं 3 घंटे बैठ के नहीं पढ़ाई कर सकता था. तो मेरा खुद का प्रॉब्लम था वो कि मेरे से नहीं पढ़ा जा रहा था. तो वो मैं बोलूँगा एक सेल्फ प्रॉब्लम था जो मुझे रियलाइज़ हुआ था, जिसके बेसिस पे बिजनेस बनाने की कोशिश करी.
And Azhar, here we are on the eve of the Global Business Summit 2024. We're talking about the big shift, you know, measuring the forces of change. अगर आपको कहा जाए कि 1 मिनट के लिए आपको भविष्यवाणी बनना है, right? फ्यूचर में देख के हमें बताना है what's next, what to anticipate, what are the forces of change. आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
तो इस पे मैं बोलना चाहूँगा जो थोड़ी देर पहले आपने बोला था टेक्नोलॉजी कितना बड़ा रोल प्ले कर रहा है. मेरे अंडरस्टैंडिंग से उस चीज़ को हमें बहुत मैं बोलना चाहूँगा टेक्नोलॉजी का रोल इन आवर लाइफ विथ ईच पासिंग डे काफ़ी स्ट्रांगली बढ़ता जाएगा, वेदर वी एक्सेप्ट इट और नॉट. आज के अगर यंग किड्स भी ले लेंगे तो उनका एक बहुत बड़ा टाइम जो होता है फ़ोन पे जाता है. हमारी लाइफ अल्टीमेटली टेक्नोलॉजी पे रिवॉल्व करते जाएगी. उसका अगला स्टेप ही अगर लेंगे तो अभी जैसे जो AI का बूम भी आ रहा है वो भी इसका ही एक अगला स्टेप है. तो हमारी लाइफ इसके ही अराउंड रिवॉल्व करेगी. टेक्नोलॉजी हमारे लाइफ के हर चीज़ में होने वाला है. तो अगर आप बिजनेस की दुनिया में जाना चाह रहे हैं तो वो उस चीज़ को तो आपको फुल्ली एक्सेप्ट करना होगा.
और अजहर हम टेक्नोलॉजी पे कितने निर्भर हो जाए, असलियत तो ये है देयर इज़ नो सब्स्टिट्यूट फॉर द ह्यूमन टच, राइट, फॉर द ह्यूमन इंटरेक्शन. हाउ डज वन अल्टीमेटली एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर strike that balance?
हम टेक्नोलॉजी को ऐसे क्यों देख रहे हैं कि वो ह्यूमन इंटरेक्शंस को उसके नेगेटिव साइड को आप आई थिंक डिफरेंट तरीके से ही देख रहे हैं. मैं तो मान रहा हूँ टेक्नोलॉजी ह्यूमन इंटरेक्शंस को बढ़ाने का हेल्प कर रहा है. उसी टेक्नोलॉजी के थ्रू मैं अपने मॉम डैड से एवरीडे बात कर सकता हूँ, वो उसी टेक्नोलॉजी का पार्ट है. मेरे ऐसे दोस्त जिनसे मैं रेगुलरली कॉल या फ़ोन पे बात नहीं कर सकता हूँ, इंस्टाग्राम पे उसके स्टेटस को देख करके मैं उसके बारे में अपडेटेड रह सकता हूँ. ये ह्यूमन कनेक्शन ही है, मतलब मुझे उसके बारे में पता चलता है. हम ह्यूमन कनेक्शन में सिर्फ फिजिकल कनेक्शन को ही ह्यूमन कनेक्शन क्यों मान रहे हैं? उसके फोटोज़ देखना, मुझे उसकी लाइफ का अपडेट मिलता है. हम किसी लोगों का वीडियोज़ देख सकते हैं इंटरनेट पे, तो हम उससे उस तरह से भी कनेक्ट. अल्टीमेटली तो ये एक सोशल कनेक्शन ही है. तो मुझे दिखता है कि टेक्नोलॉजी तो उस टच को बढ़ा रहा है rather than घटाने के. मतलब मैं एवरी आवर अपडेटेड रहता हूँ कि मेरी मॉम क्या कर रही है, मेरे डैड क्या कर रहे हैं, तो वो तो उस कनेक्शन को इम्प्रूव ही कर रहा है rather than मतलब क्या कहते हैं कम करने के. तो मुझे तो लगता है टेक्नोलॉजी हेल्प कर रहा है मोर आपको कनेक्टेड रहने के लिए दूसरों से.
What a wonderful thought. And Azhar, I think you deserve a huge round of applause. Zordar taaliyan, ladies and gentlemen, for Azhar Iqbal. And at this point, I have a few personal questions I'd like to pose. ठीक है? तो Azhar, देखिए, sometimes in life, right, there's a struggle between competition and leadership. ठीक है? हम competition को एक lens से देखते हैं. ठीक है? And we always equate competition with winning or leadership with winning. And जैसे आपकी जर्नी आगे बढ़ती जा रही है, has your view of competition and your view of what it means to win changed?
व्यू ऑफ कंपटीशन फ्रॉम अ बिजनेस स्टैंड पॉइंट आप पूछने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं?
Please, sir.
तो व्यू ऑफ कंपटीशन तो मेरा जो व्यू रहता है, आई थिंक काफ़ी बड़े लीडर्स इन द स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम भी और काफ़ी बड़े बिजनेस लीडर्स भी जो कहते हैं, मैं उनको ही फॉलो करता हूँ. ब्रॉडली उन प्रिंसिपल्स में अग्री करता हूँ कि मैं अपने कस्टमर्स को देखता हूँ, शायद अपने कॉम्पिटिटर्स को नहीं. मेरे लिए मेरा कस्टमर
That deserves a round of applause. जोरदार तालियां.
हाँ जी, तो आगे आप इस पे क्या पूछ रहे थे आगे? सॉरी.
जैसे कि आपने कहा कस्टमर्स पे ध्यान देते हैं ना कि कंपटीशन पर. ये यूनिवर्सली एक्सेप्टेड फिलॉसफी है क्या बिजनेस में? ये आपकी पर्सनल सोच?
नहीं, बिल्कुल मेरी पर्सनल नहीं है. मैंने जो स्टालवर्ड्स होंगे इंडस्ट्री के उनसे ही सीखा है, उसको फॉलो करने की कोशिश करता हूँ. और ब्रॉडली आई थिंक ये यूनिवर्सली एक्सेप्टेड थॉट है कि आप यू शुड बी ऑब्सेस्ड अबाउट योर कस्टमर्स, नॉट कॉम्पिटिशन.
And speaking of obsession, so much of Next Gen India is inspired by you. They are obsessed by you. They cite your example in everyday conversations, right? तो जब ये इतना attention, flattery, respect मिल रहा है, is it difficult to handle? Is it difficult to digest? Has it changed who you are? या वही के वही है जो आप 10 साल पहले बिहार में स्टूडेंट थे वो?
अब ये तो आप खुद बात करके जज कर लें आपको कैसा लग रहा है. मुझे तो लग रहा है मैं आज से 10 साल पहले भी वैसा था. अभी जब से मैं अपने आप को जानता हूँ मैं ऐसा ही था, मुझे लगता है.
All right. And maybe as for the benefit of our audience, the best piece of advice that you've ever received and from who?
बेस्ट पीस ऑफ एडवाइस मैं अगेन उसी पार्ट पे जो मैंने थोड़ी देर पहले कहा था, मैं उसी पे आना चाहूँगा कि मतलब क्या कहते हैं कि कीप ट्राइंग. हारने से कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ रहा है. कुछ दिन बाद आप भी भूल जाओगे और दुनिया भी भूल जाएगी. लेकिन अगर आप जीत गए तो कीप टेकिंग अटेम्प्ट्स. मतलब अगर आप जीत गए तो आप जीत चुके हो गेम, आपको कुछ गेन करने के लिए. और हार जाओगे तो कुछ दिन बाद आप भी भूल जाओगे और दुनिया भी भूल जाएगी.
Beautiful words, beautiful mantra. Ladies and gentlemen, huge round of applause once again for Azhar Iqbal.
Thank you so very much. And Azhar, I'd like to request you to please stay on stage as we take a moment and extend a very warm welcome to Ms. Manju Dhawan, co-founder Ecom Express, and Mr. K. Satyanarayana, co-founder Ecom Express, to please join us on stage and acknowledge you in your presence here with a token of our appreciation. Let's hear a round of applause. On that note, like he mentioned, continue trying, don't give up, and someday you will definitely reach where you aspire to be. Thank you so very much. It's been such a pleasure, and thank you once again. Big help having you here, Ms. Jen. And as we look forward to our next session, which is going to be a very, very interesting panel discussion. But before I introduce our next set of speakers, I would love to hear what my audience is thinking, what my audience is feeling. So, I also have some very exciting gifts for the audience members who give us some really nice, quick, funny, correct answers, of course. How many of you use logistics team to provide you services?
Sure, all of us, right? 100% of us. So anyone here who can tell me any 3 things that you look at when you are closing your logistics partner here? And let me come to you, sir, if I may request you to please introduce yourself so my entire audience sort of knows you. Let's hear it up for him, please.
Yeah, I am Pankaj Patoti. I am head of supply chain for Godfrey Phillips. So we look for timeliness, dependability, and at the right price.
Very important 3 factors there. Let's hear a round of applause for sir. I'm going to request my team to please make sure they send out a gift to him right away. Okay, I've got some 3 very interesting pointers out there. Anybody else who'd like to add something to the industry? I see very few women who are here, so I'd now like to hear from a lady there. And before one of the ladies are coming up with some pointers, let me come to you, sir. And may I request you to please introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Amol Gupta and I'm the founder of Bazaru.com. We are an FMCG company D2C. So basically the 3 things which I look for any aggregator or as a shipment partner is one, that it should be fast. Secondly, the pickup boy or like the team who are handling those functions, that should be respectful to the consumer, because we have seen in some of the companies, I would say, which I have tried, that most of times they send people who are not respectful to the like who is coming to pick up and who is going to deliver, because they are in much hurry. Secondly, they should also respect the like the time of the consumer. I would say that should be also respectful. So like they should get a call or something before delivering. So these are the things that I surely look for.
Thank you so much. Let's hear a round of applause for him. And like I promised, a gift coming your way. The 2 things that we really did find common in both the answers was, right, speed being one and the most important factor of it. Like I said, the next and final option is going to be with a lady, and I'm so very thrilled to have you raise your hand, ma'am. Let's hear a round of applause for her, please.
So I'm Simi. We are running e-commerce and marketplace for LGBTQ community. We had a lot of struggles with, I think, 3-4 logistic partners. And I think delivery was one of them. We had horrible experience. The most important is accountability. When something wrong happens, there is nobody to take the responsibility, and they would just keep shifting it from one person to another. I think this is the most important thing.
So not passing the buck and making sure that you've taken on accountability. There, a round of applause for her. I'd like to request my team to please send a gift to ma'am right there. And this is what takes us to our next segment, which is a very, very interesting panel discussion up next. I'd once again like to encourage all of you to please take pictures, take videos, post them on your social media, and do remember to tag us using our hashtag, The Big Shift. It's now time that I extend a very warm welcome to our speakers. Let's hear a round of applause as I welcome Mr. Sanjeev Navangul, Managing Director and CEO, Bharat Serums and Vaccines. Please put your hands together as I welcome Mr. Vishwachetan Nadamani, Chief Operating Officer, Ecom Express. Let me present to you Mr. Saurabh Pandey, CXO Fulfillment and Experience, Misho. May I also present to you amongst applauses Mr. Vibhor Jain, President, Network Governance and COO, Open Network for Digital Commerce. May I also present to you Mr. Himanshu Chakravarti, CEO, Snapdeal. Let's hear a round of applause as I welcome Mr. Roberto Abizedo, Director General, World Trade Organization. What a pleasure to have amongst us our expert speakers. Moderating this very, very exciting session will be Mr. Dipanjan Banerjee, Chief Business Officer, Ecom Express. So please put your hands together. Mr. Banerjee, you're welcome to take either sides right here on stage as we look forward to this very, very candid conversation on Leaders Dialogue. What is it that you can expect in 2024, and how is it that crafting new age supply chain strategies is really going to increase business value? All yours, Mr. Banerjee.
Thank you so much. First of all, good evening, everybody. Good evening to my esteemed panelists and the wonderful audience here. Yes, we can clap for each other, yes. It has been an absolutely, I would say, engaging evening so far, with extremely enriching discussions since the time it has started. And the next session is actually very, very close to my heart. having myself spent around almost 2 decades in the supply chain industry, having seen this industry taking various transformations in its own forms, having seen this industry from a completely brick and mortar led industry to a completely digital, I would say not completely, but today things don't move when they don't move digitally. So it's extremely close to my heart. Supply chain used to be one corner office in a lot of corporates at one point of time. Today, supply chain has taken the center stage in at least delivering value in a lot of organizations. Through the next 45 minutes, I, along with my esteemed panelists, wish to navigate through some of the questions which will basically derive how to deliver value through supply chain strategies in the new Bharat. With that thought, I move on to my first panelist, a person who is extremely entrenched into this particular industry, Himanshu. And Himanshu, my first question to you is, how do you think has the consumer behavior evolved in recent times? How do you think organizations' growth strategies should keep up with pace, innovate with changing dynamics, and also deliver value at the right time?
Thanks so much, Dipanjan, and good evening, everyone. I think we are moving on to a slightly more serious session now, so you'll have to bear with us because I think most of the session is going to be relatively serious. In terms of the consumer expectations, what should organizations do, etc., I will restrict myself to a few of the pointers on the lifestyle segment. That's what we operate in, because otherwise it's a very vast subject to deal with. And within that specific focus on value lifestyle. If you look at the market size and quick statistics, just to set the context, value lifestyle market close to around $100 billion segment. Out of this $100 billion, approximately 92% is retail, traditional plus modern, 8% is e-commerce. Then this is $100 billion is supposed to go to around $200 billion over the next 4 to 5 years. We also have, within this, we have this 8% of e-commerce is supposed to go to 22%. Now, these are just basic numbers, but what is interesting is something else. And from the consumer point of view, is that there is this whole feeling that the entire consumer, base that we have, it is homogeneous. It is actually two separate cohorts which are in play, two broad cohorts for the sake of simplicity. Amongst the 200 odd million people, 20 crore people who are shopping online, out of the 700 or 800 odd million people who have got access to smartphones and network, internet, this 200 million odd people, around close to 80 to 100 million people are from the more privileged sections, people who have got onto internet long time back, and the pre-geo revolution people. Now these are digitally native. They are largely in the metro cities. Yeah, they're reasonably uniform in their behavior in some ways, with some geographical differences. And then you have the next 100 million, which have come into the e-commerce fold post the geo revolution, and of course exaggerated by COVID when it happened. Now this 100 million is quite different from the first 100 million. This is in tier 2 cities. This is in cities where typically the whole experience, whether it is the modern trade or it is e-commerce, is not tailored for them. The modern trade and the e-commerce experience has been tailored for the consumers who are more metro-centric, who can understand English, who are connected with the international norms and trends. It is not meant for the people who are earning, let's say, up to 20,000 rupees household income or 20,000 to 50,000 household income. And the opportunity which is there is that the next 200 million who will start shopping, you and I both know it is going to be from this segment, because the first 100 million covers all the set of people who have more money and who are in metro cities and who have been digitally native for a long time. That segment, everybody is shopping. So the next 200 million is again going to come from them. The solutioning that we all need to do in terms of is to understand these are two segments and both offer good opportunities. But we are focused as Snapdeal on the second opportunity, which is in terms of the people who live in tier 2 cities, smaller cities, mufassil towns, the names of which I and you wouldn't have heard of. Coastal Andhra, there are hundreds of these towns. UP, we all know. Bihar, we know. All kinds of cities, towns, mufassil towns. And these are people who do not understand English. They do not understand, in fact, most of the time, they can't read long text. They can't read difficult terms. So the entire requirement that is coming through for this segment is in terms of technology that works for them, experience that works for them, goods that are of good quality, decent quality, reach them in decent amount of time. Yeah, experience which is good, return experience needs to be good for them. This is the second segment. I am not going to dwell on the first segment because first segment everybody talks about, because that's the segment which is visible. Everybody, all of us belong to that segment, and that's the segment that gets talked about in the media.
Thank you, Manshu. Very interesting, and I have a couple of thoughts to what you said. I'll come back to you later on some of those. My next question is to Saurav. Saurav, you have been in this industry for very long, and you have dealt both in the value segment, you have dealt in vertical fashion for a very long time, you have built supply chains for both. I think one thing that always excites me is data. What, according to you, is data in supply chain? How do you use data and analytics to better understand and meet consumer demands? And more interestingly, how do you ensure customer experience through data?
Okay, so a lot of times people believe supply chain's job starts once the order is placed, right? But I think supply chain plays a very large part in converting that customer and making that, placing that order in the first time. So I think in the pre-order journey, the first place where data plays a very large part is how do you promise and how do you ensure that you're promising the best stats to the customer. I think data plays a very large part in it. The more real-time inputs that you can get into how congested a particular node is, what the weather conditions are, what the road conditions are, what the road restrictions are in a country like ours, that helps you that allows you to give a more tighter and a better promise to the customer. And I think that's the first place where supply chain data plays a very large part in the conversion funnel, even before an order is placed. I think the second part that comes in is, again, and Himanshu touched it beautifully in terms of the value segment. The value segment today has a large challenge around addresses. I think when we talk about consumers who have come in recently to the ecosystem, to e-commerce and online, there is a challenge in terms of them being able to put in addresses that are consumed by the logistics systems and used well. So I think, again, that's another area where data plays a very large part. So there is a lot of good work being done in terms of converting these not so good addresses into more deliverable pieces of information that people can act upon and ensure that deliveries to these customers can happen. The next part where data plays a very large part, and again, this is important, is reducing wastage in the system. I think all of us are in this business at the end of the day to make profits. A large part of leakages in the entire value chain of e-commerce comes from things like RTOs. Now, return to origin is a very, very big problem, and I'm guessing a lot of people here have faced that as a problem statement. Now, when you look at why a return to origin happens, or why do we see that a customer is not accepting an order, there are a lot of data points that are spread across the journey of that shipment which tell you, hey, what has happened? Has it been misrouted to a certain place? Is the customer address quality good, bad, so on and so forth, right? So this is again one large area where it plays a very large part, and it can also play a large part in how to reduce costs in the system. And finally, and this is one thing which is actually not invested in enough, but again, when I've working with the more demanding side of the customer base in the past, one of the things that data helps you also analyze and understand is your last mile quality. And this is actually one of the most critical aspects of how a consumer interacts with your platform. How do they feel when the delivery boy shows up at their doorstep with their package? And how do you measure that? And how do you ensure that you're able to capture this information and use that to better train these people to ensure that they're provided tools to solve for it? It's probably one of the biggest use cases for data. So there are more that I can speak about, but I think these are the 4 big ones that I could think of.
I think, thank you. Very, very valid points. Fortunately, one of them addresses something that we'll cover in a product launch that we'll do towards the end of the evening. But turning our attention slightly towards the global arena, we have spoken about Bharat and how supply chain is evolving there. I'll turn to Roberto. Roberto, you've seen various disruptions in supply chain or global businesses, or at least consumer-facing businesses, how they have changed over the last decade. We have seen events that has probably not, we didn't think that COVID will come. We did not think that a Panama Canal will come or a Suez Canal will come. How do you see this? How do you think supply chain should or has built resilience, and what do you think is the future?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. The supply chains are essentially being shaped. Companies are strategizing around the regulatory environment, right? So the regulatory environment is changing very quickly, and it's responding to some very basic components. I think the first one is geopolitical. And the geopolitical, actually, people talk about the pandemic a lot, but the geopolitical came even before that, right? When, particularly during the Trump administration, the US essentially started a trade war with China. And a lot of other countries were involved in that, whether they wanted or not. So that was followed subsequently by the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and now the Middle East, and all those things are, leading to sanctions and leading to new regulatory frameworks which are changing very quickly. Another area is unforeseen development, so the pandemic or climatic disasters like hurricanes or droughts and floods, and all those things also affect the supply chains very directly. And finally, consumer and opinion and public opinion. Those things are also shaping the regulatory environment, and they again respond to several things. It responds to sustainability concerns. So greenhouse gas emissions, that's one CBAM in Europe. It's all about that. Or deforestation, or waste management, or conservation of natural resources and water. I mean, all those things are also having implications on the regulatory environment. Health concerns, so sugar, salt, organic agriculture. You see what's happening in Europe at this point in time in response to policies which are shaping after that. Political issues like human rights, labor rights, racial discrimination. All those things are leading to a very fragmented and very unpredictable evolution of the regulatory environment, which makes companies shift from the previous rationale, which was just in time, so I don't want inventories, I want to import and feed my production chain as needed, so shifting from just in time to just in case, because nobody knows what's going to happen. So we have to be several options, and they are diversifying not only the input source, they're also diversifying the target markets. Now, this, of course, is very unpredictable, and I suppose in the private sector, I would be pushing for more international cooperation and supporting multilateral organizations, because at least you have some kind of a predictability in the evolution of the framework. But that, we can speak for hours about this. This is just a kickoff.
Thank you. It's very diverse views. I think I like the way you said that just in time to just in case. I think our whole theme of this event is the big shift. I think everybody in the panel also is mentioning about things that we never thought about before. The Bharat, for example, the kind of rural ecosystem development is a big shift of mindset of how e-commerce ran in India earlier to now. What you spoke is also about a big shift that people have to think much ahead of the curve and also be ready for everything. These are very, very interesting discussions. I turn slightly into healthcare, Sanjeev, with you, and I think it's a very different subject, and healthcare supply chain is very different than a lot of people think, right? What would be very interesting, Sanjeev, is to know from you, specifically in the healthcare industry, what do you see are some of the trends that are evolving, that are business trends, and how do you think that supply chain should keep pace with it?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I think I belong to probably the dullest industry of everyone.
Not dullest, but the most important, maybe.
When everybody, I think, was involved in fun industry, I only come when the fun gets over. So, but I'll give you 3 examples, and that will might, 2 where I'm personally involved as a company and as an industry, and 1 more which will touch your heart and understand that why it is important is. Look, I'm probably the only manufacturer amongst the 3 or 4 manufacturers left in the world of anti-snake venoms. I don't know how many people know, but 50,000 people die in this country of snake bites. 50,000. not a small number. And out of that 50,000, 45,000 die because they do not get anti-snake venom in time because they are not able to reach the place of treatment.
You will have to put it on Blinkit.
Yeah?
You will have to put the vaccine on Blinkit.
Maybe that's the solution. But I'm just saying that what are we thinking about it is reversing the whole thing. That instead of the patient reaching the treatment center, how can the treatment reach the patient center? Yeah? And therefore, we're trying to bring in a diagnostic element where we know which snake has bitten. Customizing anti-snake venoms and trying to find a way to reach the person who has been hit rather than this. So this is the big change, that reaching the customer rather than allowing the customer to reach you, because the customer is in pain, not in a position to sometimes get there. Let me give you one more example on vaccines. And Roberto would have dealt with a lot of this vaccine discussions. Imagine I'm vaccinating a village in the country. And this does happen. I reach the vaccines, I vaccinate the entire village, X amount of population at a particular age bracket, and come back. 25 years later, there is an outbreak and many of them suffer. Why? Because the vaccine that has been reached has breached the temperature control parameters. Now, how dangerous is this? So two things are happening in this shift on many cold or let's say temperature controlled products. One is happening is how can we make it heat stable to defy supply chains. One of the things is to take them out of equation. And second thing that is happening is how do we strengthen the network of cold chain throughout the country in a much different way, where ice creams can be reached. How can we ensure that vaccines reach properly? So this is the second example. The third example by which I would like to say how transformation happening is, let's take I said touch your heart, in the sense that imagine lots of people have heart attacks. And the place of heart attack could be anywhere. And there is a golden hour. Golden hour is in 1 hour you reach the person to the center and you can treat them with medicines that are required and treatment that is given, and generally you get the heart muscle repaired reasonably well and you save person's life but also future quality of life. Both are important. Yeah? So if that has to be done, imagine the logistics involved today. What is the logistic involved today? Somebody has to understand first of all that this person is not feeling well or suffering an heart attack. Secondly, call for an ambulance, get into the ambulance, get the person driven to the treatment place. All this takes time. This is getting more and more difficult, and many people, thousands of people die because of this. Or even if they save their lives later on, the quality of life is deteriorated. So then how do we manage this? And what is again happening as transformation in healthcare is, how do we manage to reach the place where the person has had a heart attack or such an event? It could be stroke, it could be something else. But how do we manage to reach there with the adequate equipment or the treatment and manage to do that there itself? Why do we need to transport the patient, and why do you create that time logistics done? And then you can talk about drones and anything. And these are experiments happening as we are speaking.
I think very interesting. People always say that in India, pizza reaches in 15-20 minutes and an ambulance reaches in 2 hours.
Absolutely.
So I can relate to what you're saying. I think there is a lot to do in this sphere that you're mentioning, and we'll come back to you if we have time, Sanjeev. Talking about the big shift, a big shift is happening in the way India does commerce, Vibhor. And ONDC is, at least in the way I think about it, is going to be very big in the way it's trying to bring the entire ecosystem together, in the way it's trying to bring the suppliers, the consumers, the portals, and the logistics players like us in the portal. My question to you is, how are you building strategic partnerships? How do you see the future of this? How are you getting the entire ecosystem together? And how will that be a big shift?
Sure, thanks. So I think if one looks at the current supply chains, right, and the partnerships that exist across the supply chain, there are a lot of inefficiencies there, right? And the reason we are able to unlock those inefficiencies is because when you look at the entire value chain, there's a strong synergy between the financing of that value chain with the logistics of that value chain. And that's a very tightly coupled play today, right? If you can unlock that and break those barriers, then a lot of efficiencies could be drawn out there. Let's take a few examples, and then since it's a logistics summit, let's look at long-haul trucking in the country, right? There are a lot of inefficiencies there for multiple reasons, right? The return truckloads to a certain percentage are empty, right? There is very high insurance cost because the way the trucking business is organized in the country today, you have small operators who operate those trucks out there, right? Their working capitals are completely sort of, messed up because they get their payment on credit, and obviously they have to sort of fund their working capital out there, right? So there are a lot of inefficiencies which are sitting in the system today. Now, the moment you migrate to an open network, right, where you're aggregating a lot of demand, which is more access to market, and you are able to provide better financing options because of the information collaterals that exist today as against asset-based collaterals that were the legacy, I think magic can happen there, right? So I think that's a direction which we're going to say, how can we make information collaterals work in an unbundled environment where you have real-time visibility across the value chain, and you can really unbundle the financial flow of money in terms of the value chain from the physical flow of goods and services across the chain. So that's the focus we're bringing in, and that thought process can be applied to any category, any domain. It could be a B2C, it could be D2C, it could be B2B, it could be services or products, it could be the entire value chain of manufacturing. So from that perspective, that's the true potential that we're looking at unlocking. So the idea here is, how can we bring better access to market? How can we improve the trust value of it? How can we enable high trust at low cost? I think that's the big point out there, right? High trust at low cost. And what role does information play across the value chain? Where we can stitch the value chain in real time is the power of the network. So that's what we're building on. Yeah, it's early days, day zero still, but yeah, that's the direction.
Thank you so much, Vibhor. Fantastically articulated, I would say, the way you put this together. VC, my man, my question is, how are you going to enable all this? There are so many challenges in the supply chain. How do you plan to actually enable the change of consumerism that is going to hit us?
So I've been hearing a lot since the afternoon, right? And not just this panel. Ashneer mentioned that sab kuch jaldi chahiye, sab kuch abhi chahiye, right? Himanshu was mentioning that the next wave of growth is going to come from the tier 2, tier 3 mofussil towns. Ajay was mentioning that the 60% of the demand is now going to come from the next set of towns. So I see a lot of different themes that are emerging, Dipanjan. I think the first large theme I see is, I think the day of one solution fits all, I think, is gone. And I think every platform has unique requirement. Every product has a very unique requirement. Sanjeev, I hope one day self-administration of vaccine will become as normal as anything else, and that day it'll just be the supply chain that's between a person who needs it and you, right? And hopefully that's a big opportunity for us. So I think different products for different e-commerce platform is the need of the day. Same day delivery, next day delivery, reverse pickups, quality checks. I think all of this we already have, and I think to a good extent, whatever is the requirement today of different platforms, I think Ecom Express is ready for it. The second big theme that I saw today was, I think every platform wants to know whether I have one shipment or 10 shipments, 1,000, a lakh, can I rely on a logistics partner, right? Because Ashneer was mentioning there's an issue of density. We have the largest reach, and I think Ecom Express has taken pride in having the largest reach in the whole of country, despite the density issue that Ashneer mentioned, which is actually very, very true. And I would also proudly say that we have actually built e-commerce in India by way of first building the reach. So when it comes to reach and when it comes to scalability, I think Ecom Express is well set. We have India's largest automation centers, 30 of them, the largest in India. We have the highest reach. So I think that's well set for the next 2-3 financial years, I could say easily. Third big one that I can see for today is, Saurav was mentioning how complicated last mile deliveries and how much data plays a role in that. We have done our own share of work on the technology. I don't want to steal Amit's thunder later in the day. He's going to unveil a product which is already showing its magic on the ground for us. And Amit and team are continuing to push a lot more into technology as we go into the tier 2, tier 3 towns of India, where the difficulty of delivering goes up exponentially. But that's where the market is. And I think technology is going to make all the difference, and we are investing heavily into it. The last one, Dibanjan, that I felt was a theme today, someone in the audience also mentioned shipper experience, consignee experience. How good is it? How transparent are you? How you can sort out escalations? I think it's very important. We have a customer panel that is very handy, easy to use, doesn't require too much training. A D2C brand can go live on our panel in 10 minutes and start shipping, right? That's as easy as it can get. So I'm a little happy that, whatever are the challenges that the panel members were speaking today, I think we are well set for it. But I also do anticipate a few things I think that we can get ready for, and we'll do that. So yeah, Ecom Express is ready for every entrepreneur and everyone that's out here.
Thanks, VC. We are out of time, but I will take, on behalf of the audience, because we have a lot of D2C founders, we have a lot of supply chain experts, senior professionals in the room today. I'll myself take a popular question, and I will ask Himanshu and Saurav to basically participate in whatever form to answer that. RTO remains a very big challenge for the e-commerce industry. Return to origin. Return to origin is basically anything which is RTO'd is out of your net revenue. There is a part that logistics players play in that, but I feel that this reducing RTO is a joint partnership between a portal and a logistics player. While the logistics player will do everything right to ensure the right speed, the right efficiency, the right last mile dynamics to reduce RTO, there is a part that portal plays. I would like to touch upon that, Himanshu and Saurav, and maybe talk about that partnership that a logistics player and a portal can play to reduce return to origin. Starting with you, Himanshu, and then Saurav to wrap up.
So yeah, as you said, and I think we were discussing the Bharat or the tier 2 and beyond opportunity. One of the critical things with that is that the COD component is extremely high. Cash on demand, that component being high, and it varies depending on the player, anywhere from 70% to 90% for those markets is COD. Now COD inherently has a significantly higher RTO profile. It's not so much in the prepaid segment. Interesting, there are actually two broad parts to this problem. I don't have a solution, we are all working on solutions, but there are two broad parts to this. One is that if you were to do a survey of even what you do in the end, out of the supplies that you finally make, almost the last mile payment is another 50-60% last mile payment is digital. It is not COD. So that we jointly need to solve this, because the moment it becomes prepaid, a large part of this problem is solved. So this is one. I don't have a solution. We are all working different solutions. We'll not get into solutions. The second part, and this is again equally important, is the quality of the address which is there, which makes it very difficult for anybody to actually deliver it. The address is incomplete. The customer is not able to fill in, because as I said, the customers in these geographies, you're making them fill, most of them opt for some odd reason, opt for the English version, and for them to fill address is not easy. Now this quality of the address, and we all do quality of the address scoring, I'm not going into more smarter parts, which is in terms of RTO predictability, etc. That's separate, that's algorithmic, let's get that out of the picture. But address quality itself. Now you look at the issue, address quality, I am solving separately. Yeah, he's solving it separately. Somebody else is solving it separately. And that customer probably already has received 5 consignments from somebody or the other. Yeah. So this is the era and the age of collaboration. And I'll keep repeating that point, why it is the era of, and ONDC is of course one example, but even in areas like this is the era of collaboration. We are trying to crack open a very large opportunity in the market. And how do we solve these problems in some way or the other between the partners
Very
and us
interesting.
together?
Actually, people think it is proprietary. I'm amazed, how you're seeing it.
I'm so happy we are moving in that direction. Sort of your final comments, and she's already looking at me while you're sitting here.
All right. So I think today RTO is seen again, as I said, as a problem that starts after the order is shipped, right? I think if there is enough collaboration, and I think that's a large part of it, right? If there is enough information flowing between the ecosystem to say that, hey, this is the customer intent that we have seen across platforms, across different avenues that they've shopped on. This is the kind of address that we have seen, maybe sharing lat-long information. I think this is something that we've been discussing for a long period of time, that, hey, it's our customer that we have placed an order for. If that lat-long can come back to us, we can probably use that to take better decisions in their customer buying journey. Converting COD to prepaid is a very large part that Himanshu touched upon. And again, while it's on the doorstep is what is a large payment cycle, can it be moved upstream? And if we are able to find these answers of collaborating and sharing this, these insights with each other, I think a lot of this decision making can be made in the buying journey of the customer rather than at the customer's doorstep. And the moment we do that, we bring in large efficiencies to the system, which again can be funded into probably making the margins better or making the customers buy more because we can make the products cheaper.
Thank you so much. We come to an end of this panel discussion. It's a privilege to chair this panel with such esteemed panelists. Thank you so much, each one of you. Lovely discussing these topics with you. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Banerjee. What a pleasure to have you put this session together. But may I request you to please present each of our speakers with a token of our appreciation, and I'd really appreciate if you can start from the extreme right. Let's hear a round of applause. Creating some picture perfect moments right here. I'd also like to request all of you to please join us for a group photograph, as we'd love to have the panel be a part of one single frame. And this is also time for me to remind all of you to please head to your social media accounts, share with the world what we're discussing here. We have some spectacular speakers all through, some very, very interesting sessions lined up, lots and lots of learning. So I'd like to encourage all of you to please share some pictures, videos. You're more than welcome to tag us. And of course, please do use our hashtag, The Big Shift. A very interesting session lined up next. Thank you so very much. It's been a pleasure having all of you here. Thank you. And as my team sets the stage for a lot of action that we're about to bring to you right here, I'm going to come out and I have some very interesting prizes for some of you who can give me the correct answer to this one. Okay. We mentioned earlier today in a lot of our talks that Ecom Express is present and very active in how many cities of India? Anyone who can give me the correct number and you get a prize? Anyone who can give me a correct number right there? Okay. Yes, sir? Absolutely, 2,700, and we have a prize coming your way. Fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Many, many congratulations. And it is now time for us to get set and bring to you an absolutely fantastic session right here. Thank you so very much. As we set the stage on fire for our next segment, I'm about to present someone here on stage who all of us know very, very well. He's known to be a creator of change. He's known to encourage the youth to follow their heart and passion and go out there. He is a politician and a philanthropist, a member of the Lok Sabha, and he definitely touched hearts of the entire nation when he was a part of the Indian cricket team. He's played every international format of the game that you've ever heard of. Also the recipient of Padma Shri. May I request all of you to please put your hands together as I present to you Padma Shri Gautam Gambhir. Please do put your hands together as we extend a very, very warm welcome and present to you Padma Shri Gautam Gambhir, a politician, a philanthropist, former Indian cricketer, someone who has touched hearts in every format of the game that he has ever played, and definitely an inspiration for us. Let's extend a very warm welcome. Thank you so very much for being here and taking this conversation forward, taking this note forward and making sure that we have the best of learning. Like you mentioned, the tricks behind leadership, the journey from humble beginnings to overcoming adversities and becoming a leader on par will be none other than Miss Pooja Jain from Times Network. Let's hear a round of applause for Pooja as she steps forward for this very candid and interesting conversation. Welcome, Pooja. You're known for your words, and please wind the story together. Over to the two of you.
It's such an honor to share the platform with not only an internationally celebrated athlete, but with an individual that I and many in this room have long admired. A huge round of applause once more for Mr. Gautam Gambhir.
Thank you.
All right, so the theme tonight, as you know, Gautam, is the big shift and measuring the forces of change. 5 years ago, you retired from all formats of the game and began your second innings as a member of parliament. So given the heights of success that you'd achieved on the field, on the pitch, was that transition to life off the field ever something you feared?
Honestly, yes, I did. Because all my life, actually, I've only played cricket. And when you've played for such a long period of time, the moment you decide to retire, you actually wake up the next morning and think, what next? Because there is nothing to look forward to.
Right.
And that's the reality, because, and it happens not only with me, it happens with a lot of sportsmen, the what to look forward to, because the opportunities and the options are very few. It's not like a Bollywood or being a politician where your career is probably prolonged for a very long period of time. If you see any sportsman, how long does he play international or competitive sport? He only plays till 35, 36, and he's done that for such a long period and for years and years, day in, day out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so sometimes you realize that the next morning is probably the toughest morning, because when there is nothing to look forward to, obviously the energy is not there, the excitement is not there, and it actually happened with me as well.
What candor, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that deserves a round of applause. The honesty and the humility. And a follow-up question for you there. I think professional athletes are perhaps conditioned to view competition and winning through a certain lens, and to view leadership and winning as going hand in hand. But given that you've evolved from a former cricketer to a philanthropist and a politician, I'd like to understand how your definition of leadership has changed.
Look, I think leadership, for me, the definition of leadership hasn't changed one bit, whether I was a sportsman to whether I became a politician, nothing at all. For me, I think the qualities of a leader remains exactly the same. And I can keep talking about it, I can talk about it for hours, that what a leader needs to be like. For me, I think the most important thing for a leader is that leader never compromises on his values and his beliefs, irrespective of whether you're standing alone in front of the whole world. You still believe in your values, which are very, very important. And the most important thing of a leader is that you earn respect out of love. You don't earn respect out of fear. So yes, you can talk about leader needs to be compassionate, needs to be humble, needs to be accountable, needs to be responsible, all those things a lot of people must have heard day in, day out. But for me, I think the most important attribute of a leader is that you actually earn respect out of love, not because of fear.
That deserves a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And Gautam, let's talk about another facet of leadership, and that's really selflessness. What role in your personal experience does selflessness play in finding success as a leader?
Look, selflessness is not just a word, and we have heard about this word quite a lot of times that a leader needs to be selfless. Selflessness is a word, is a thing that how you look life as. I think if you look life as being someone where, or in a team sport or in a nation where nation first philosophy is there, or for example, if you're a sportsman and you think about team first policy, you will always be selfless. Selflessness is just a way of living life. It's not something which you can buy in the market, or you can actually over a period of time can probably groom yourself into being a selfless leader. I think it's just the way you look at life, it's just the way you treat human beings, it's just the way about giving back to the society. It's not only about taking. So for me, I think this word of being selflessness, I think it's used very casually, which should never be, because anyone can be selfless and anyone can be selfish. Yes, when people talk about leaders being selfless, I think it is important to be selfless not only as a leader but as a normal human being as well, because how much is important? The important thing is that how much can you give it back to the society and make your country proud or make every individual happy. That is what is all about being selflessness. So I think this term should not be used very casually. It should be used in a very, very specific manner. And I think selflessness is something which is a very, very important quality in a human being. If you have it, I think it's a massive, massive plus.
Phenomenal. Yes, please keep the applause coming, ladies and gentlemen. And Gautam, we hear time and time again growing up from our parents, find your calling. Or from friends, you will find our calling. And you're one such individual that seems to have found many, multiple callings, if you will. So of the multiple hats that you've donned, what might you characterize as the 3 most career-defining moments? If I had to limit it to just 3.
Oh, that's a tough one. I think 3 career-defining moments. I think people definitely remember my 1997 or a 75 in those 2 World Cup finals, but actually, those are not the most important moments or the most probably career-defining moments in my life. I think a lot of sacrifices that were made, and I remember one incident, and which I've not spoken too much about, and I probably can share it with you people.
Please.
I remember playing my first World Cup, which ended up being the T20 World Cup, which we ended up winning. That was my first World Cup of any sort, and I remember the first game got washed out. The second game, I got a duck against Pakistan, and when I was coming back, and I was actually thinking that this journey can't finish like this. The script can't be finishing like this. And the second game was against New Zealand. And I remember leaving that hotel. That was probably the most important game of my career. Obviously, I've got dropped many times in my career. But that particular game was probably the most important game, because had I not performed in that game, I probably would have finished my World Cup there and thereabout.
Right.
So before leaving that room, I told myself one thing, that irrespective of what happens today, I'm going to try and play on my own terms. I'm not going to listen to any outside noises. This is the moment where I have to start believing in myself and play on your own terms. When I come back in this room in the evening, I should have no regrets coming back in this room, whether I perform or I don't perform. And fortunately, I ended up getting a 50 of a 21 or 22 balls, and that changed everything. So the most important thing was that I actually promised myself something which actually I've never promised in my entire career, that I'm going to go out there and play on my own terms when the chips were down, when my back was absolutely, when I was down and out. So when you're down and out, that is the most important thing, and that actually was the career-defining moment of my life.
Wonderful to hear that. And it's not every day you're treated to such anecdotes, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to switch gears for a moment, Gautam, and talk about the Gautam Gambhir Foundation, because it has truly transformed the lives of members of the East Delhi constituency, its residents, and among the many causes you care about, be it women's safety, or combating climate change, or feeding the hungry, or educating the underprivileged, you're a loud and proud supporter and champion for diversity. Why is this particular cause so close to your heart?
No, I think I don't talk too much about my foundation, because when we started this foundation, I was actually not a politician, and I never wanted to use that for my own political mileage as well. But yes, one thing which is very close to my heart is something not when we feed the needy or other things, when we take care of the martyrs. One thing which is very, very close to my heart was educating the girls of the sex workers. That is something which is very, very close to my heart, and the reason behind that is because there is such a strong confidentiality clause where you don't know who you're sponsoring. Tomorrow, if that girl comes in front of me, she would not know that I've funded her education, and vice versa. She doesn't know that who I am. And when you try and change the life of someone where you cannot take political mileage out of, so that something becomes very, very close to your heart. And more importantly, the vision for the foundation is that if we can touch many more girls like that, and if we can stop them from going into that same trade, that is probably one thing which remains very close to my heart, and hopefully we can try and probably increase the number of girls and try and not probably push them into the same trade. And I think every one of us should take some cause or the other so that we can change the society.
We salute you, we certainly do. And Gautam, so many of us know Gautam Gambhir, the persona, and not necessarily Gautam Gambhir, the person. And while we've gotten a sneak preview today, what more can you tell us? What more can you leave this audience with tonight so that that's a part of the past?
Look, I say things sometimes I get a lot of flack for, but I'm fine with it. I say things how I look. But one thing I definitely would want to say is that I think be careful of social media. I think that is something which not a lot of people would talk about. Yes, I think yes, there are times when people laugh at it, but I will tell you this. For the next generation, I think the biggest cause of depression would be social media. And the reason why I'm saying is that something, if you can spend money, if someone has money, he or she can create a perception about anyone or everyone sitting in their AC room just by spending money, and that perception is not right. A lot of things are said, whether it's good or ugly or bad. That's not true on social media. Don't get addicted on social media. Yes, the youth of this nation, this country, they are addicted. Any kind of addiction is bad, whether it's alcohol, whether it's social media, whether it's gadgets. Because people do not talk about it, because they know that they need a lot of approval from social media. And I have never, ever lived my life thinking that what is said about me on social media, whether it's good or bad, and whether I need approvals on social media or not. That is not the way to live life. So for me, I think before making a perception about anyone or everyone, whether be it a politician, a sportsman, a Bollywood star, first meet that person individually and then have his image rather than seeing what is said on social media. So that is one message I would definitely want to give, because people do not talk too much about social media, and we know why people do not talk about it, because there is so much of approval that is needed from social media, which probably is the fakest thing that has happened in the country.
We just heard that we need to meet that person before coming to conclusions. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have met Gautam Gambhir. Huge round of applause.
Thank you.
And he has very generously offered to open up the session for some light audience Q&A. So if you do have a question in the audience, please raise your hand, introduce yourself. Keep the question short and crisp. We will try and get you a mic. And this opportunity does not come every day, ladies and gentlemen, so take advantage of it. Yes, here, gentleman right here in the front table with the gray blazer. If we could kindly hand him a mic. And if not, sir, we'll have you project your voice in the meantime. Good evening, sir.
Gautam, good evening.
Good evening.
We all love you a lot, and we definitely think that your World Cup innings was definitely one of the milestones of your career.
Thank you so much.
My question is not really a question. Since you are an MP from Delhi and I belong to Delhi, I have a comment, and I would request you to also, if you are already doing something about it, you can always comment about it also. I think pollution is one big problem, Gautam. I would request that as a young MP of Delhi, you should definitely make sure that enough noise is made in the parliament and enough resources are brought into, controlling the pollution in Delhi. You can, of course, add if you are already doing something about it. But I think much more is required to be done.
Much more, not only much more, lots and lots. And it's not only a responsibility, I'll be very candid and honest with you. No government, no MP, yes, I can create an awareness, we can probably ask this or raise this issue in the parliament, but it is a responsibility of every individual. I've got 2 young daughters. I know what they go through. A couple of months back, when I was speaking to a doctor, 75% of children in Delhi were on nebulizers. It is our Delhi. Delhi belongs to 2.5 crore Delhiites. It is not a responsibility of 7 MPs or a state government. All of us together needs to create that awareness. The smallest of steps are equally important. What are we going to leave behind for our next generation? when they grow up, tomorrow if my daughters ask me this question, that what have you left behind? I can't even live in Delhi. I can't even breathe in Delhi. I have never ever thought in my entire life that there would be a vacation because of AQI. When I was growing up, there used to be only 2 vacations, summer and winter vacations, as all of you must have experienced. But today, if there is monsoons, we get waterlogging holidays. If there is pollution, schools get shut, which is so unfair. All of us are stakeholders of Delhi. All of us are stakeholders of India. So we all together needs to create that awareness and take the smallest of steps. And I'm sure, I think from your point of view, who better than me, to be honest, because I've got young daughters. I want to leave something behind which they can be proud of, not only from my own point of view, but from the Delhi point of view as well. So they can be living here happily and in a right environment, and they can breathe freely. And one thing which actually I took up was trying to finish off that Ghazipur landfill. It's a massive stigma, and that comes in my constituency. It is Asia's biggest landfill. And the reason why I took up that issue was because I remember when I was getting into politics and I was actually campaigning for my elections, I went there and I went to a place where I saw this lady and this young boy, and what kind of an air they were breathing. And I actually promised themselves, I don't care whether I stay as an MP, whether I win an MP seat or whether I stay as a politician, but I'll keep raising that point day in, day out, because there are thousands and thousands of families which live around that area. So it is our responsibility. So I'm sure, I think all of us together will definitely, if we have the right intention and honesty, can change Delhi, because it's still not late, and it is never late. Whenever you decide to start, that's the right moment.
Hats off to that.
Thank you.
Yes, the gentleman right here, if you could please stand up in the black blazer. If we could kindly get him a mic quickly, please. And sir, good evening. Thank you for being here. Please do introduce yourself before putting forward your question.
Hi Gautam, this is Yogesh Kukreja. I'm co-founder of a QSR chain called Lub Lebanese. In fact, I'm meeting you for the second time. I had played one cricket match with you at Radha Krishan tournament. आप कभी खेलते थे?
Cambridge Foundation.
Cambridge, yes. So, in fact, what I wanted to ask is, now obviously most of us know that, how has your sports background contributed to your present discipline and your now career, which is politics? Because I know in this room, a lot of entrepreneurs are sitting. There are some entrepreneurs who work out every day. There are some entrepreneurs, I am one of those, कि हम सोचते हैं यार अभी career बना लेते हैं, बाद में exercise करेंगे.
I'll give you a very short answer of this. How my sports profession helped me in my political profession. That will to fight at every given point. Because it's not that it's easy for me. From being a sportsman to a politician, it's a completely different field. There are far more frustrations in this field as compared to there, because there everything was black and white. Everything that happened when I was a sportsman was in front of the whole world. Success, failure, good, bad, everything happened in front. But here, there's a lot of gray. But one thing that I learned from my earlier profession was that fight till the last drop of your blood. Because it's very easy to give up. It takes a second to give up. It takes a lot of courage, day in, day out, years of courage to continue going. So that is one thing that has helped me stay into this for the last 2.5 years.
Beautifully put.
Thank
Thank you, sir.
Message for all of us, we should spend some time on exercising. We should
Yes,
some time for workout.
More importantly, never give up.
Never give up, yeah.
Because you're not allowed to give up. The moment you give up, then you give up on everything.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. All right, yes, the gentleman right here towards my left in the glasses. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Hello, Gauti sir. Jaideep here. 2007 and 2011 World Cup, we cannot leave it around. It's in our blood cells. I want to ask just one question. The biggest crisis innings, 75 and 97. The emotional control you had, please discuss about that. I think it would be a great honor to hear all those integrities of the crisis management, which all we deal about in daily life.
See, the emotional control was that, first and foremost, I knew that there were 140, at that time probably 100, 140 crores people backing me. So I was not walking alone. So that itself was a massive strength which I was carrying. And second, which is the most important thing, was staying in the present. The contest was between bat and ball. The occasion do not matter. Whether you play a club game, whether you play an international game, whether you play a game of that magnitude, the contest still remains the same. So the moment occasion gets better of you is when you start panicking. I had never thought about it, whether that I was playing a World Cup game. I never practiced differently. I never trained differently. I slept properly. I did exactly the same thing what I was doing when I was playing a Ranji Trophy or a club game. People might just say that I'm saying it for the heck of it, but that is the reality. And that's because every time I trained for years and years, I actually trained thinking that I need to win that one particular contest. So cut it down to the smallest of things, rather than thinking that I need to chase 270 or I need to set up 200. Cut it down as much as you can and take it to that point which you can control, because you cannot control beyond that one particular contest. You cannot control that 275 what you were chasing, but you can control that one particular delivery what you were facing. So when I was able to cut that down and take it down to that level, obviously all the other things took care of itself. The performance is just a byproduct. First, you have already played that inning in your mind one night before. When people talk about it, that you go into an important meeting or an important event, you've already done that one night before, a couple of days before. You don't do it right there. So those innings have already played in my mind. So that became much easier for me, and more importantly, I knew that there were 100 crore people praying for me, and that prayers are far stronger than any other thing.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are completely out of time, but I really have to think. One last question, okay, upon request. Please, sir, last question for you.
Hello, Gautam sir. So, as you have won 2 World Cup for Indian national country, so I would like.
एक तो यही सबसे बड़ी problem है हमारे देश में. I haven't. It's the team.
You are part of the team.
Yes, I'm part of the team. We need to get out of this obsession of individuals. Let's not be obsessed. Let's be obsessed with India. Let's be obsessed with team first philosophy. जब ये बोला जाता है ना XYZ, we need to cut this hero worship thing. I was just part of that team. My job was to contribute. My job was to score runs. I have not done anything which I was not supposed to play. There was someone who's taken a wicket. There was someone who's contributed with me as well. So never ever, whether I'm sitting here, whether someone else from that 2011 or 2000 comes and sits here, never say that you. Say that Team India, because we represented 100 or 140 crore Indians. We represented you. So it is not only us. You guys have won that World Cup as well. So change that mindset. Once you change it, once you change that question, things will change.
So in that context, my question is that what different Indian team needs to do to win the next World Cup?
Look, I think because I'm a commentator now, I've said that during the commentary as well. When you go into those big tournaments, you need to be courageous. And courage doesn't come just like that. You need a lot of mental strength to be courageous. Because the moment you start thinking, what if I make a mistake? What if you make a mistake? So what? Human beings are bound to make mistakes. So what if you go out there and try and be positive and aggressive and courageous and fearless, and you end up making a blunder? So what? I think ultimately, it's the most courageous team that goes on to win the World Cup, not the most talented. And that is what Australia has shown, and that is why India has not gone on to win an ICC event for such a long period of time, that somewhere down the line, we've lacked that courage, we've lacked that fearlessness, because we're always thinking about not making a mistake. It's okay to make mistakes. The moment they start thinking it's okay to make mistakes, sky can be the limit.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, Gautam just spoke about courage, and I want to say it takes a lot of courage to open up and share so many anecdotes from your personal journey and your professional journey in front of fans around the world you've never met. So once again, huge round of applause for Gautam Gambhir.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Pooja. Thank you so very much. Let's hear a round of applause for Gautam Gambhir as we take a moment and personally thank you for your time and present you with a token of our appreciation. Please do put your hands together as I welcome none other than Mr. Ajay Chitkara, CEO and MD of Ecom Express, joining us here on stage, and that in very athletic way forward. Let's hear it up for him, please. Gautam, very, very candid conversation. We had some very interesting inputs from you. And like you said, all you've got to do is have that never give up attitude. Keep trying and life's never going to fail. On those very inspiring notes and tokens, make a round of applause once again for none other than Gautam Gambhir. Let's hear it up. Let me also thank my very kind audience. Thank you for keeping those questions coming. It's your questions that made this interesting session really come to light. And let me once again thank you all for making it so interactive. Please do remember, I would love to see you share pictures, share videos, share what you think about the various sessions that we've put together for you. All you've got to do is head to your social media accounts and please share with the world what we're discussing right here. Do remember to tag us and do please use our hashtag, #TheBigShift. As we get set for our next segment, this is going to be a very interesting panel discussion on the investor's lens. But as we introduce to you our panelists here on stage, I know all of you are fans of Gautam Gambhir, but would really request all of you, due to security protocols, if you could please take a seat and allow him a moment of breath and an easy exit out. I'd really appreciate that. So requesting all our fans to please take a seat. I promise you, you'll have enough and more opportunities for that picture and selfie. So please, for now, due to security protocols, may I request all of you to take a seat? Once again, requesting my guests to please settle down. Let me present to you our next set of panelists joining us for the investor's lens, navigating investment to deliver the consumption shift. I'd like to welcome Mr. Manoj Kohli, International Growth Advisor to MNCs and Global Funds and Business Transformation Coach. Let me also present to you Mr. Vageesh Gupta, Managing Director, Partners Group. A very warm welcome to Mr. Himanshu Nima, Managing Director, Warburg Pincus. A very warm welcome to Mr. Vinay Bansal, CEO and founder, Inflection Point Ventures. May I also request the kind presence of Mr. Vikram Gupta, founder and managing partner, IBCap Ventures. May I also request the kind presence of Mr. Rakesh Singh, Group Head, Investment Banking, Private Banking, Marketing and Products, HDFC Bank. And moderating this very interesting session will be Mr. Shalabh Tandon, South Asia Head of Operations and Climate Change, International Finance Corporation. May I request all of you to please put your hands together and welcome our expert speakers right here. The next 30 minutes of a very, very interesting conversation, all thanks to where the investors' lens are going to be as we navigate investments to deliver the consumption shift. And as we welcome all of them, I'd like to tell you that after about 30 minutes discussion time, if we are left with any time, I promise my audience for a couple of questions. All yours, sir.
Okay. Is this on? Yeah. So thank you and a warm welcome to all the panelists. The good thing about the delay that we've had in starting the session is that we had some very interesting conversations going in the speakers' lounge. I wish we could have recorded some of those and just played it. It would have made it much more exciting for all of you. But anyway, we'll start with our session. A lot has been said about India's economic growth and various drivers of the growth like digitization, India Stack, infrastructure-led growth, China +1, and so on, the urbanization, etc. But, and also I think Ajay, the CEO, highlighted in the earlier sessions about how India is poised to become the third largest e-commerce market in the world, how there are 12 million retail outlets in India compared to just 1 million in the US. The retail sector is contributing 35% of the GDP, much more to jobs, about data speed of India being the best, low cost of data, and Manoj has been part of that revolution as part of the telecom industry. But, you know, just to put all of this in perspective, on the other hand, there are also some startling numbers which I want to put forward. The e-commerce penetration for all the growth is still 8.5% of the population in India. So the 1 billion remaining population of India is yet to be harnessed. 10% only of the jobs are in the formal and organized sector of the country. The rest is all in the unorganized sector. If you analyze the wallet spent on online transactions, 50% of that spent is only contributed to by 3% of the population, 2 to 3%. And that's where everyone is competing for. And finally, 85% of the population from a business startup perspective is really unmonetizable. Can we increase that pie of monetization segment of the society? Will India continue to grow that by adding middle class, or are there risks to it? What are investors doing looking at all this changing environment? So to unpack all this, we have an exciting panel. I'll first start to set the ball rolling with Vikram. So Vikram, as a VC fund manager, from your perspective, how are you seeing the startup landscape? There has been a lot of coverage about startups facing a tough time last 2 years in funding, in valuations, and trying to solve problems. What are you seeing? And are they really, is the innovation story still alive?
So thank you, Sharap. And there are some very, very interesting numbers that you mentioned. I'll quote a few more. The number of registered, DPIIT registered startups has really substantially grown now. We're talking about 120,000 DPIIT registered startups, and that number has actually substantially grown even in the last 2 years, despite the fact that the total number of funding in late stages especially, that has come down. And I think there's a reason. We've seen what has happened after COVID. 2021 was a year, a lot of liquidity came into the system. Interest rates went up. A lot of, drying up of liquidity happened in 2022, 23. Of course, late stage deals stopped happening. But I think good entrepreneurs, smart entrepreneurs, good businesses, profitable businesses who were staying put, doing well despite lack of funding, they've actually done really well in this market. And I think those entrepreneurs have continued to receive funding. And we ourselves have invested close to 600 crores in the last 12 months. Investors like us actually have seen the opportunity to make investments during this time because the valuations got corrected quite substantially. In fact, we've seen almost 30 to 40% correction of valuations since 2021. And I think we're going to see that trend to continue at least till the first half of this year. We are expecting that to change or improve post-elections, and maybe June onwards, you will see substantial rounds happening.
So your outlook remains, you are still bullish as
Yes.
a long-term story. Okay, thanks. Deepening that conversation further, Vinay, if I can come to you. You have been part of the Inflection Point Ventures. What advice are you giving to startups for graduating from idea stage to Series A and beyond, particularly in the consumer tech and e-commerce space? That's where most of the interest is in this audience.
Sure. I think the advice doesn't change from a consumer tech to non-consumer tech. I think when you go into seed stage, you're looking at the founder and the idea. And as Ashneer also said, I bet very early stage and I bet on the founder. When you're moving from a seed stage to little bit late stage angel, there you are starting to see the POC of the product. जो आप बना रहे हो वो बिक रहा है नहीं बिक रहा है कंज्यूमर को पसंद आ रहा है क्या कंज्यूमर उसके लिए पैसा देने को तैयार है प्रॉफिट बनेगा कि नहीं बनेगा ग्रॉस मार्जिन लेवल पे एज यू गेट टू अ सीरीज ए लेवल यू आर मेकिंग श्योर दैट द फाउंडर फिट एंड एंड गो टू मार्केट फिट इज सेटल हो रही है फाउंडर इज एबल टू ग्रो फाउंडर इज एबल टू हायर द टीम फाउंडर इज एबल टू गेट द लीडरशिप इन एंड देन ही इज एबल टू एक्सपैंड राइट सो आई वुड से वेरी क्विकली दीज 3 or 4 बट पैसा जब बर्न होता है वो गलतियों के लिए होता है पता होना शुरू में कि क्या चलेगा कैसे चलेगा कौन चलाएगा यू डोंट नीड टू बर्न एनीथिंग राइट एंड मेनी बिजनेस आर बिल्ट लाइक दैट बट पैसा गलतियों के लिए चाहिए होता है वो गलतियां लगती हैं सीखने के लिए सो दैट्स हाउ यू यूजुअली थिंक फ्रॉम अ सीड टू प्री-सीड.
Well said, Vinay. I think that you put it in perspective. Moving on more towards to the mainstream and larger ticket size investment and late stage investment. Vagish, I'll come to you. Partner Group has taken a controlling stake in many companies. I know you and Himanshu both are on the board of Ecom Express also. So what has worked for you? What is your investment thesis in the current changing landscape? What excites you?
So I would say, thanks Shalabh. I would say the 2 broad buckets of themes that we are really excited about. Right? The first bucket is just explosion of consumption in the country. And I think several driving factors to that. The Honorable Minister talked about the mobile phone earlier. Aspirations have shot through the roof. Earlier, one would think that, look, our older generation was different in terms of consumption. The younger generation is driving consumption. But the mobile phone is actually a key contributor to the explosion of the economy. Aspirations are going up everywhere. Everyone wants aspirational products. The second big aspect to that is affordability. People like Meesho, people like Snapdeal, several businesses out there are making products that can meet these aspirations. They're managing to produce high quality, deliver high quality for all these customers who want products that they probably never knew about or even knew about they couldn't necessarily afford earlier. And the third is the general stability in the economy. There's obviously rising incomes, but people feel good about consumption when there's stability in the economy. And this is, in my view, giving rise to a massive ecosystem, not only brands, not only D2C, not only consumption, but you have logistics players, right? You need an ecosystem of delivery services to service these. There's an entire ecosystem of financial products, buy now, pay later. But there are several themes within mass market domestic consumption that we're really excited about and we are going after. The second one is just the shift of India as a hub from just being low-cost labor providers to providers of really high-quality products and services to the rest of the world. And this is a big shift. It's a transformational shift, but it's not happened overnight. It's still happening. But we're no longer just producing, I would say, low-price products just because of cheaper manpower. There's real innovation happening across products, technology, and that's a massive theme for us that we're going really hard after.
Yeah, thanks. And then you touched upon high-quality products for the global market, and I'll come to that more in subsequent questions, especially about the manufacturing sector. Remaining on the same page as late-stage investments, Himanshu, Warburg Pincus has had a very successful track record in the country, and we are seeing that urbanization and real growth in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities is a phenomena. How is that influencing your investment strategy? And is everybody chasing that, and how is Warburg Pincus chasing that or differentiating that?
So Shalabh, thanks for asking, and pardon my voice, it's a little under the weather, but I think it's a very relevant theme that we are seeing, especially in Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. We are seeing that the quality of life is better. People have become more and more aspirational. They're looking for high quality but value for money products. And I think that plays quite well to some of the themes that we play. Look, we are thesis investors. Consumer, technology are some of the areas that we've been quite active in. We've played the shift from unorganized to organized in actually multiple facets of the industry. We've played this in jewelry. We've played that in fashion. We're playing that in actually building materials, as well as healthcare, because people are looking for high quality healthcare in Tier 2, Tier 3 locations. I'll give you a couple of examples to bring it to life. Very recently, we invested in this company called WaterTech. So WaterTech is a polymer-based bath fittings. None of you would have probably heard about it because all of us are sitting in metros. They actually create plastic bathroom like taps and other things at 1/3, 1/4 the cost of a classic Jaguar. They're based in Coimbatore, serve only Tier 2, Tier 3 markets, and they're a phenomenon. By virtue of their distribution strength and manufacturing, they've created that market. And we are seeing increasingly how people actually like affordable quality. So I think that's one example and we've played that theme very recently. The other example I'd say is on healthcare side. There's a company called MedPlus, which is basically pharmacy chain. They're opening 800 to 900 stores every year, but 60% of those are being opened in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. And they again are seeing massive rise of incomes. People are looking after their health, especially post-COVID. And those again are items that are actually getting sold. So I'd say it's a phenomenal time to be looking at Tier 2, Tier 3 markets as an investing thesis. And we've been at least trying our level best to play to some of these themes.
Yeah, I know, and I remember Vikram was telling a lot of the startup screening that you are doing is also, a lot of it is coming from startups from Tier 2, Tier 3. Not everything is Bangalore as everybody thinks they are. Turning now to changing tracks, actually turning to Rakesh Singh. Rakesh, you may have missed, I attended Ashnil Grover's session earlier a little bit, and what he said was, जब company list होती है तो सारा किस्सा खत्म हो गया. मतलब सब everybody is, it's all about listing. तो वहाँ खेल खत्म. And a lot of the startups here, or even businesses, have ambitions to list. Some of it is to give early investors and exit investors like Vikram and Vinay. Some of it to actually genuinely tap the capital markets. And yet we have seen time and again, and I have seen it from our experience, Manoj has seen it, that if you list too soon, you may have problems. If you wait too long, you may have problems. What is the advice, Rakesh? And you have been a very seasoned and experienced investment banker. What are the prospects in the current market for listing, especially for these e-commerce and logistics type of companies? What advice can you give?
So, listing is like marriage with public markets, and there's no right time or wrong time for doing it. However, basically, when you're listing, you have to look at three key elements which you have to. Today, if you look at most startups, how you define your TAM, total addressable market, is a very, very important case in point. You can define a niche TAM, you can define a larger TAM, but have you defined the TAM? Because the market is looking at the total addressable market which you are chasing. And that is very, very key, because at the end of the day, a startup is expected to solve some unsolved problems till now. Or you are solving a problem in a more efficient way which has not been solved till now, both ways. So that is the first point of it. The second point when you come to is your model a sustainable model? Which means you have maybe a higher upfront investment cost, but a much lower variable cost at which you are implementing a business model. If you are not doing that and you are doing the same thing in a different way, then the market at some point can see through that this execution is not sustainable. A good case in point, very good case in point, is fintech lending. Okay, was no different than what banks were doing it, and you've seen that fintech lenders have had a huge backlash from investors, because the business model was all about subsidizing what they were doing. And the third point is, whatever you are doing, is there an opportunity for you to scale up in the market to actually meet that opportunity? Because proof of concept, some market tapping is fine, but when you have to scale up, will you be able to scale up, and what will be the opportunity for scaling up? So if these three elements are addressed, and you straight true to implementing a story in a public market, the market is always open for you. The issue is there is a problem and there is a solution. The beauty lies in a management team that executes relentlessly along the learning curve. The mention was there as a learning curve. Are you executing along the learning curve? So if you look at various companies which have promised, when you over-promise, under-deliver, then the market punishes you very harshly. And it should, because investors have the right to do it, because you're not hard-earned monies invested by public investors, they have the right to punish you. So it's very important that when you address these three issues, it is equally incumbent upon each founder and each management team to ensure that you don't over-promise and under-deliver. You better promise and better deliver.
Thank you, Rakesh. I'm sure these words of wisdom will be well received, especially also about the marriage timing that you mentioned. Coming to you, Manoj, and Manoj has held several leadership hats in very different capacities as an industry veteran, as an investor, and also as a mentor to startups and all. But my first question to you, Manoj, is more related to your most recent appointment as chairman of a very exciting SaaS company called Unicommerce. We heard earlier in the day about ONDC and D2C, omni-channels and so on. Do you think the e-commerce democratization is actually now ready to take off? And what innovation and opportunities do you think should investors look at?
No, thank you. I would like to start from what was said earlier, never give up. I think we have a stage of life of this nation which is never give up stage. And I think time for India has come, and time for India consumption story has come. And there are a few factors, very critical factors, which are key drivers to this future story. Number one is that no other market in the world has stability. I think that stability is most important for growth. And I'm seeing Europe, I'm seeing US, I'm seeing so many parts of the world where instability continues. Number two, economic growth is driven by multiple sectors. It is not that one sector of manufacturing or of service or of agri. All sectors are driving it very hard. Number three, which is also very important, that all this transformation of India is led by technology. And not only digital technology, but many technologies. And you're seeing this situation when smartphones are only 50% of India. there are another 600-700 million people who need smartphones as they get affordable. And the fourth driver, which is also very important, is that Indian products and Indian quality products, somebody said, quality products and Indian business models are most affordable in the world. So with all these things playing together, I think time has come for first all the 5,000 urban towns to get the power of this retail boom, the consumption boom. Because 5,000 towns are still not covered, let me tell you. We are talking of tier 2, tier 3, but still we have to go under.
And a large population is still not covered.
Large population. And out of 6 lakh villages, there are top 50,000 villages which are heavy population villages. And I'm very lucky and blessed to be a CEO who went to thousands and thousands of villages personally. And sat with panchayats, put a tower there, opened some shops. And I've seen so much hunger to utilize technology. And I don't know if people know, 2/3 of GPay transactions are in rural India. So this shows that I think all 5,000 towns are ready. Maybe the top 50,000 to 1 lakh villages are ready. So I think what we are heading for in the next 5-7 years is going to be a very major consumption revolution.
Thanks, Manoj. I'll stick with you, and now let me come to the jobs agenda, because for India to continue growing and for tier 2, tier 3 cities to continue growing and contributing to the consumption boom, it's important for people to earn money. And then therefore they will have disposable income, and therefore only they can consume. So I want to tackle that question by coming to 2 or 3 of you with different perspectives. First, a lot has been said about or written about manufacturing sector being key for sustaining the job growth. India announced and did the PLI scheme. A lot of people will admit that it's been a mixed bag, some successes, some not so good successes. What is your outlook on the manufacturing sector? You've seen it from different walks of life. And where do you think we can prioritize and where should we focus on? What is the outlook?
So let me first tell you the secret. Out of my 45 years work experience, 16 years, the first 16 years were in manufacturing. I have been a plant manager in India and outside India, and I love manufacturing. But somewhere 20 years back, I think manufacturing left India and left many parts of the world and went somewhere else. And we allowed it to go.
How can we bring it back?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe that PLI is a very good trigger. It's a trigger. Now you can't say that every trigger should have 100% success.
That's true.
Maybe it's 80% success, maybe it's 90% success. It's a very, very important trigger and a symbolic message to the nation that we are serious about manufacturing. We want to get manufacturing to be more than 25% GDP of India. I think that's a very, very important thing. And we fell down actually to a very low level. Now, I feel from an employment point of view, service sector is doing well, agriculture employment is declining and will continue to decline, manufacturing will go up. So the biggest savior of India from employment point of view will be manufacturing.
Correct.
And I believe that, yes, the plants which are coming up, and I have been involved in 2 plants, Ola Electric in the last 2-3 years, Ola Electric and Lenskart, 2 plants came up. And so many thousands and thousands of plants are coming up. They are automated. But still there's a lot of employment, direct and indirect, which is coming up.
And the supply chain.
And the supply chain behind it. So I believe that this is a golden opportunity. And next 10 to 20 years, this combo of physical infrastructure and manufacturing is the biggest combo of employment in the world. On infrastructure, we are spending about $1.4 trillion. And on manufacturing, I think we are spending, I don't have the figure, but a lot of private investment is coming up. So I believe together, they'll be the massive employment driver for engineers, for mechanics, technicians, and even semi-skilled Workman.
Great. Thank you, Manoj. And it would be great to see Warburg Pincus and Partner and many other private equity funds put more money in manufacturing and greenfield manufacturing. I think that will test the rubber. But anyway, staying on the jobs agenda, Himanshu, how do you think investments in healthcare, education and technology can contribute to it, to the economic development of the youth?
You know, I'd say a couple of numbers to what Manoj just added. The demographic dividend that people call, we have more than 600 million people who are below 25. This is sort of our moment in time in the world to go and capture. I'd say with that amount of people, they're looking for three things. I think three things are important. First is they need to get jobs. And I'll talk a little bit about jobs. They need to have high quality access to education and healthcare. And third, we need to spur this spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship. Those three things. I'd say at Warburg, I think, and investors in general, I think there is a unique chance to create domestic champions who can conquer the world. And I think those will largely come from manufacturing. I think there is, Vagish spoke about it, we are not doing commodity value add. We are starting to do innovation-led manufacturing. We have to use low cost of labor as a strategic advantage to go and conquer. And within healthcare, for example, and I'll talk about healthcare and I can also talk about EMS. Within healthcare, we are seeing sizable scale capacities coming up, people deploying largely by virtue of PLI schemes in med devices, med techs. You'd see a lot of companies today having 10 to 15% of their exports about 5 years back starting to become 50% of their business is exports now. So there is already green shoots within the medtech space where manufacturing is coming to the fore. The second sector we are seeing is EMS. One of our portfolio companies, Boat, you would have seen those headphones. You know, they have shifted their manufacturing, which was 80% insourced from China to almost 90% now in India, largely thanks to the PLI schemes. And I think that has a ripple effect on creating jobs, but more importantly, stable supply chains. And they can now work with stable partners like Ecom Express as they think about delivering products. This is one example, but there are multiple such D2C brands that could benefit from having a supply chain operator like Ecom Express partner with them. And frankly, that creates jobs. If you think about Ecom Express, they hire, you know, Ajay said this earlier, you hire like a lakh people, 50,000 on board, but maybe a multiplier of that through other opportunities. So I think that all of that goes towards creating jobs and employment.
Yeah, you're right. And Ajay mentioned that he can absorb many, many more because the demand is so much. Let me come to the same jobs agenda from a third angle, which is the MSMEs. As all of you know that India has about 65 million MSMEs in the country, and it contributes in a big way to jobs. For them to keep contributing to jobs and income, they need access to credit. Fintechs is one way of getting it, many other ways for them to get it, democratizing credit. Last few days, fintechs have been a lot in the news because of the RBI announcements around Paytm, and today also there was some intent by RBI that they want to regulate Aadhaar-based payments, etc. I know Vinay, you have invested in Vikram, I think you have also invested a lot into the fintechs. So do you remain bullish? What is your outlook on the fintechs? Are they going to contribute in a big way for credit for MSMEs, which in turn leads to jobs?
No, absolutely. I think going back when Ashnir was coming to funding to us and I cut one of the earliest angel investor checks to BharatPe, his pitch was very clear. मैं consumer के पास नहीं जा रहा हूँ, मैं MSME के पास जा रहा हूँ. मेरे को एक QR code जो है ना आपको as a consumer नहीं देना है.
Tell me one thing. He also said people thought BharatPe is a government company. Did you also think that when he came to you?
I have known him for 10 plus years, तो उसको जानता था मैं. तो we actually sat down and looked at the model.
Modi की company है, he said.
हाँ. So it was an MSME play, and it was then on top of it a lending play. After that, we did Card 91, we did many other fintech investments. I think most of them went very well. India में जैसे आपने बोला कि 65% of the economy is run at least by MSMEs, and that's why Mr. Modi, recognized January 16th as a Startup India Day as well, right? And he recognizes that this is where the large power will come from. And India remains unbanked still. The problems of finance are of each one of us every day, whether you are the top SECA player or an SEC C player, right? So there's a huge amount of frequency, huge amount of problems, huge amount of opportunity therefore lies. So अलग-अलग problems हैं, अलग-अलग तरीके से solve होने वाली बाकी हैं. Having said that, we remain one of the best, most advanced UPI digital payments country globally, right? So there's no dearth of problems here.
Vikram, do you want to offer a different
Yeah, I
insight?
just want to add to that. I think from a jobs perspective, since you mentioned fintech, I'll just give you one example. One of the biggest employer in fintech is, collections. So actually you have army of these people calling people कि आपका EMI miss हो गया है, आप पैसे भरिए. We have this company now where we're investing, which is actually has this AI technology where a human voice will call you and basically, talk to you, converse with you. Based on the answer you give, it will again talk to you. So it's actually, the other side of it is actually, now it's going to disrupt a large number of jobs of those people who have actually been working in these call centers. And I think there is this, new age technologies, generative AI, machine learning, which is actually now coming as a threat for all these jobs out there. But at the same time, I think, there's some very interesting examples. I was talking to, the founder of InMobi, Naveen Tiwari, 7,000 employees. He said, I told my employees that I'm giving you 31st December deadline. Each one of you has to be AI certified. If you're AI certified, your job is secure. So effectively, if you upgrade your skills, you will stay in the market and relevant. If you don't upgrade your skills, you will not be relevant. So I think market will keep changing and keep evolving, but and you have to keep upgrading your skills. So I think that's what is going to happen, and it's going to continue to happen.
Great, Vikram. I think your use of the words AI and Gen AI is a perfect segue to my last question. While a moderator should not give a view, you are tempting me to say something. At IFC, when we used to meet a lot of the founders and investors, I think I would say 4 or 5 years ago, we didn't meet anybody who didn't use the word AI and they are not using AI. And a lot of times it was just Excel spreadsheets and regression, and they used to call it and pack it as AI. Now, of course, now things have evolved. And I also read somewhere that if there was a word of the year contest, generative AI would rank top there as far as last year is concerned. So that is indeed my last question, where I want to bring this discussion to a close. A lot has been said or written about how generative AI can have a negative impact on jobs. It can have a transformative impact, particularly on white-collar jobs, and therefore that can lead to lower income, lower jobs, lower growth, etc. On the other hand, a lot of players remain optimistic and say the opportunities far outweigh the risks that generative AI bring in. So I want in 1 minute each of you to actually rank on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you see the impact of Gen AI in the next 5 to 10 years in India? 1 being extremely negative and 10 being extremely positive in terms of opportunity. And if you were to give one insight, it could be anything, advice to policymaker or advice to entrepreneurs or biggest opportunity or biggest threat or any other thing, what would that be? So maybe we can go in any order. And,
okay,
and please stick to your guns, what your views are. Don't get influenced by Manoj.
Okay, my rating is 8. And it is 8 because I believe that these negative alarms have been on for last hundreds of years. For example, when computerization started in 60s, 70s, there was a huge alarm in this country that computerization will kill all employment and banks, especially banks, who will, all these things have been wrong, fundamentally wrong. I believe that AI will benefit India. India is a country of technology. India is a country of engineers. We will lead the world. We will benefit from it. And the only recommendation which I can give, you said one recommendation, that there is a 7 or 8 million requirement of AI engineers and ML engineers across the world. India should be the supply chain and pipeline of those engineers because we can give it. So our AI engineers actually should rule the world because they are the best. They are extremely good, extremely bright people. So not only India will benefit as a market or economy, but Indian engineers will also benefit being global.
Great, I'm actually in the same range of 8 to 9 because I think if you see the new generation, and we're talking about almost 800 people less than the age of 30 in this country, and most of them are on cell phones and transacting online. So I think it is going to have a positive impact because the mindsets are changing quite substantially. But I think from a policy perspective, I think it's an opportunity for us to put this as a core curriculum in our courses and education system. And I think our education system is lagging behind in terms of the curriculum. I think we need to make sure that it's taught at very early stages of education in schools. And I think that's one thing which is very, very important.
Gautam Gambhir said, be optimistic. So if I can 10 ke upar ja sakta hu, to chala jaunga because I am an early stage investor.
Wow.
Think about, I was talking to a founder yesterday. He said, cancer की ना जो दवाई होती है, वो आपको 4-5 बार try करके पता चलती है कि कौन सी चलेगी, तब तक late हो जाते हैं. What if there is an AI tool which can tell you for this type of person, this gender, this origin, this kind of a treatment, this is the best medicine you can go for, and AI can tell you, you can save lives. And as Manoj said, India में सबसे ज़्यादा AI engineers हैं. They are the most valued talent in AI.
But tell me, let me counter that. Not everybody can become an AI engineer also easily,
Yes.
right? Are you saying there is zero threat to jobs, white-collar jobs?
No. I am saying there is threat to jobs. No doubt. There will be some jobs that will go. Self-driving cars आएंगी तो शायद मेरे driver की job जाएगी. But क्या वो कुछ और सीख सकता है, कुछ और कर सकता है? Absolutely yes. Right? Maybe we'll create far more jobs. 2018 में हमने एक investment करी थी विशप करके. They were into personal assistants. उन दोनों ना Google का personal assistant आ रहा था, Siri का personal assistant आ रहा था और कई और personal assistants आ रहे थे. तो लोगों ने बोला क्यों invest कर रहा है? Personal assistant will take their jobs away. Today, they have grown, they are profitable, they are making huge amount of money. उनके जो assistants हैं ना वो AI use करके उनको help कर रहे हैं जो AI use नहीं कर सकते. Right? So think about it, how the word can be leveraged. It's your smartness, how you leverage the tool to your advantage. Yeah.
Thank you. Himanshu.
I'm a little more pessimistic than my
little more. Okay. Can you elaborate on little?
I'm a 6.
6, okay.
6. I would have been a little more negative, but I'll tell you a use case that I used yesterday. But I do think for simpler jobs, it is indeed a threat. And if we have to leverage India's massive workforce as a key strategic advantage, there could potentially be some risks. I saw it in action yesterday. My 6-year daughter came to me and said, give me key facts about 9 planets. And it took me less than a minute to type it on generative AI and get the answer. Otherwise, I would have searched for like 10 minutes. But I'm not the only one. I'm sure this is happening across the board. I also feel we are overestimating the impact of AI. I think it's the most hyped word, as you said, Shalab. But I've not seen a single job being lost till date. And it's been going on for the last 2 years. So I feel like this is running ahead of its time. The impact will not be as big.
Very interesting perspective, Himanshu. Vagish?
Yeah, I would say the same. Look, for 5 years, my answer would be very different. But over a 10-year period, my view is it would be for an individual business or a sector, maybe a 3. But for an economy as a whole, if we do it correctly, could be an 8. And so my only advice is make sure as a business, you're not a part of that 3, right? Which is what we are doing for every single portfolio company, every single board. It is important to make sure you're allocating a part of your budget. It is overhyped, but pace of innovation changes at a point of time. And you have to make sure you're thinking ahead 5 years, 10 years, and allocating that budget to testing those use cases, even if they don't yield any money today. But there will be businesses that will disappear, there will be jobs that will disappear, and you have to make sure you're not one of those.
And that has happened even despite not having Gen AI. A lot of jobs have disappeared in the past also, right? So that's a great perspective. Rakesh?
5 in 5 years, 9 in 9 years. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
It is the same thing that happened with self-driving cars. When it came in, there was a lot of hype that, listen, everything is getting, the computer vision is going to take over. You still say, both Waymo and the other cars you see still in the Bay Area roaming around. But nothing has changed, nothing has changed. Self-driving cars have only improved driving, have become more, contributing more to safer driving. So I think even AI will make it more easy to access information, analyze stuff and give it to you, but I'm sure when you want to reproduce, you will add something to it. So I think there's a way for both to coexist.
Great, great. Thank you so much. And I wonder whether there is a difference in opinion if you look at different age groups, because sometimes I talk to a lot of the youngsters and college goers and all, and they are more pessimistic on the impact than all of us. And anyway, but let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For our panel yet again. And let me now request our moderator, Mr. Tandon, to please present each of our panelists with a token of our appreciation. And we'd like to thank you all for sharing your views here with us. So let's hear a round of applause once again, please. My audience, let's see some energy from all of you all right here. Thank you so very much. Sir, may I request you to please do the honors? And may I now request Mr. Manoj Kohli to please present the book and, a way for us to learn and lean forward to our moderator. A round of applause, please.
Is it on? No?
It is now.
Maybe I should end with a joke. We were chatting in the lounge that if there are any questions which somebody doesn't want to take, they can all ask Manoj to answer that.
So that's exactly the reason why I requested him to do the honors. Always had him, you can put him on a spot. He'll always be there with some fantastic answers. So a round of applause once again, not just for Mr. Kohli, but the entire panel. It's been a pleasure having you here and you moderating the session, sir. Thank you so very much. Requesting you all to please take a seat and my team to set the stage up for our next segment, which is a very, very interesting product launch happening right here. All through the day, we've been touching upon various subjects. All through the day, we've been talking about what is it that the logistics industry needs in their ecosystem to make things get faster, talking about speed, talking about accountability, talking about making sure that they fit the right price. Yes, all these elements are very, very important. And that is what takes us to our next session, which is also going to be the final session for the evening. Right after this, we have a lot of entertainment in store for all of you. And of course, a moment for us to network with the industry leaders right here. Telling us more about Ecom Express, the latest products and what it has to offer to all of you is going to be Mr. Amit Chaudhary, Chief Product and Technology Officer, Ecom Express. May I request all of you to please welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you. Hello, yeah. So coming in at the last and standing between you and your drinks is a big challenge, but I'll try to make it fast. We just talked about Gen AI and what about, how is it going to help, how is it not going to help? Well, we have a Bullseye, which is one of the biggest address LLM that we have built. It's the first of its kind in India. You can't solve the address problem by using regular programming ways. So you need to resort to something which is called the ML techniques. You solve it using ML techniques, and then also you start hitting a particular boundary. How do you push the boundary? So what happened is we basically went back. We saw what's going on with the entire address space. We had a bunch of addresses that were there. We wanted to break it down into tokens, and we put it through a very complex engine, which you call the GPT-2, and we made something which we are calling it bulls.ai or Bullseye. So I'll just quickly take you through what is the problem that we are trying to solve. So poor address quality has been a problem. There was Saurabh from Meesho, he talked about how data is helping solve this problem. There are different types of addresses that we enter all through, right? I mean, there are different ways in which you enter the addresses, whether you're entering the address in a passport or you go down to your fashion app, it just drastically changes. You keep changing your PIN codes, you keep changing, misrepresenting your words, which are your address names, the localities keep changing. So I just given you an example of how different addresses can be of the same home, and how do you decipher it? You can't decipher it again using a regular technique. So what you tend to do is, So this is something that we have created. Is, as I said, is first of its kind in India. Please sign up for this. It is going to make sure that you don't have to spend all the time, effort, and resources that we have done. We have got a lot of data, and we can use that data to make your life simple. Go ahead, scan the QR code, show your interest. We will get you into the beta release and then probably into the full general release that we're planning. The next point that we want to talk about is there's a lot of friction and a lot of different things that we understood when we talked to a lot of sellers. We understood that there are 3-4 major concerns that sellers have. The onboarding is very clunky, right? You take so many details of data. I mean, we want to collect as much data as possible. It doesn't help anyone. How do we make sure that we're only collecting relevant fields of data? How do we make sure that we make your pricing very simple? That's another thing that we want to talk about. The real-time tracking and visibility, this is something that should come completely built into the platform. And finally, if you take a look at it, you should be able to raise all the disputes and claims through one piece. So what we are launching today is Orbit. Orbit is the connected platform. This is one home, everything that revolves around the logistics universe for your interaction with us. It is going to be homed in one place. The product promise is very simple. It should take you 1 minute to register on board, 1 minute to manifest, another minute to start shipping. You know, this is as easy as should get, because if you can get a loan in 5 minutes, you should be able to register and get your stuff shipped in 3. That's what we have done. We have built it out. We want to make sure that you again register. You know, it's already live. A lot of people have onboarded to this platform, but please go ahead and use it. Feel free to provide all the feedback. We are going to continue to make it better and richer for you. Finally, we'll talk about the customer's customer, which is the user. And I think Ajay talked about the need for speed. The need for speed is pretty much you know, all over the place. The Instagram world doesn't want anything to be delivered in 5 days or 7 days. Everything is coming back to the single same-day delivery. How do we solve for that? So what we have done is we have basically taken a look at what we need to do in our network engineering design. How do we make sure that micro-fulfillment centers are coming all over the place, you know, different fulfillment centers that are very close to where our last-mile facilities are. We are able to make sure that we are increasing the runs. We are increasing more vehicle drops to these locations. We are adding people into different shifts. All of that so that you can go as late as possible in your cutoffs and make sure that we are there to help you through this. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for patiently listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for bringing to us all that energy and the product launch. Like he said, you're more than welcome to meet and connect with the team. Please do put your hands together for him. It's now time for me to once again extend a very warm welcome and present to you Mr. Ajay Chitkara, CEO and Managing Director, Ecom Express, joining us here to officially thank all of you for being here and, of course, also unveiling the entertainment evening that we have on the other side.
Thank you very much. I think you guys had enough, so now let's start the party. I just wanted to thank the team who put together this show, so give them a big round of applause. Thank you very much for joining, and let's start the party now. Thank you.
Well, when they told me that it was going to be a short and sweet vote of thanks, I thought maybe like a couple of minutes, right? But who could have thought that he doesn't want any gap between you, the cocktails that are waiting on the other side. But let me once again take this moment by thanking all of you for being such a spectacular part of the entire day that wouldn't have been complete had it not been for our very interactive audience. So thank you. Let's hear a round of applause for all of you. Also thanking and congratulating the entire team of Ecom Ecom Express. They're around. We're going to chit-chat a lot. But I did promise you that we're going to have a very, very entertaining band that's going to be a part of the evening, that's going to bring a lot of music and soul to the evening. So let me come and ask some of you, how many of you love music? Sir, आपको तो देख के ही लगता है you are a music fan. एक बार खड़े होइए ना, please. And just introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Vikesh. I am working for HUL, Hindustan Unilever Limited.
So, sir, are you only a fan of listening to music या थोड़ा बहुत गुनगुना भी लेते हैं?
मैं गा लेता हूँ.
क्या बात है. So, let me introduce to you. I'm Isha Bhalla, a bathroom singer, and I'm very, very so not proud of the fact. So, what I'm going to do is that I have come up to you and I'm going to start a song, okay? And you have to take it forward, ठीक है? So, are you ready? जिसको भी अच्छा म्यूजिक पसंद नहीं है कान बंद कर लीजिए. I am seriously a bad singer. Okay. ये शाम
मस्तानी मदहोश किए जाए मुझे डोर कोई खींचे तेरी ओर लिए जाए ये शाम मस्तानी मदहोश किए जाए मुझे डोर कोई खींचे तेरी ओर लिए जाए.
Vikesh ji, you're so good that I'm tempted to give you a prize and a gift there. May I please request my team to send a gift right here? Let's hear a round of applause for him, please. That's how good he was. And I did see you raise your hand that you're very good at singing. And that's what sort of makes me want to come up to you and something for this beautiful evening together and something for love, okay? So, pal pal dil
के पास तुम रहती हो जीवन दिल की प्यास तुम रहती हो पल पल दिल के पास तुम रहती हो. Thank you.
You know, they often say words are not important. आपने जो सुर और ताल का मिलन कराया, क्या बात है. जोरदार तालियां हो जाए इनके लिए. And may I please request for the team to bring a prize here. We'll just send it your way. And while some of you have already taken to the bar and enjoying a few cocktails here, ma'am, when I look at you, I think of, you know, a lot of beauty. First of all, many compliments on the beautiful sari that you